Hi guys and welcome to another episode of the Boxing Coalition. My name is Cam. Joining me tonight, my boy Lewis, aka MV Chew. How's it going, Chew?
Not bad, Cam. How's it going, bro?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, man. Bit of a quiet week in boxing. There's two main cards to talk about. I'll let you choose. Do you want to talk about Sheffield or do you want to talk about Nebraska?
Talk about Sheffield first.
Alright, we'll get her out of the way. I think, obviously, the Eubank fight got promoted to top of the bill. Really poor matchmaking, in my opinion. What do you think?
I've defended Sky in the past. I can't really defend them for this one. Pretty shocking card. Pretty shocking all round, top to bottom. And the apex of that shockingness was Chris Eubank against Hardcore Holly. Bob Holly, aka Tony Jeter. Yeah, fucking shocking. But I don't know if you saw the fight, Cam, did you?
Yeah, I saw it, man. Was it just me or did Tony Jetta look like a big version of Frankie Gavin? Not,
Yeah,
not in fighting style, just physically.
yeah, yeah. It was like it was kind of, there was no kind of muscle definition to him at all. Just kind of skinny. He was. What can I say? I mean, the word bum is thrown around a lot in boxing, but I think this guy takes the prize. You look at his box rec coming up to this fight. He lost against four guys. One of them is Patrick Nielsen, who I've heard of. I'm not going to tell you I know everything about Patrick Nielsen. I don't. But he was knocked out in the second round. Lost a guy called Jose Felix. TKO 5. Jose Felix had a record of 10 wins, 11 losses, 2 draws. He lost it against James Hendricks, who had 3 wins, 4 losses, 0 draws. And also he lost against a guy called Kwame Bumpus. The aptly named Kwame Bumpus. And that was Kwame Bumpus' debut. And then he retired after that fight. So he lost against a guy who had one fight. He beat Tony Jeter and he must have thought, this is the fucking apex.
It's not going to get any better than this.
It's not good, because he must have knew, Kwame Bumpus, that down the line somewhere you'll be up against the next generation, Chris Eubank Jr. Fucking hell, man. Chris Eubank was fighting against Hardcore Holly. Now, if you watch the WWF, Hardcore Holly was the hardcore champion in the late 90s of the WWF, back in the Attitude Era. And like Hardcore Holly, Tony Jeter was fighting in arenas where it was fall counts anywhere. Actual fucking cafeterias and that. So, what can you say? Tony Jeter, as Sky alluded to in the commentary, all his fights were no contests. All his wins were fucking no contest. Well, not no contest, but because of head clashes. You know, he's had a lot of draws, a lot of wins where he's literally fucking going in with his head. And in the fight, first round, he actually tries to stick the nut in Chris Eubank Jr.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah. Do you think he's just trying to get out of the fight? Just like, fuck it, I'll get disqualified or some shit.
He's been watching a lot of British fights then.
That's what he's probably done. That's what he's probably done in his other fights. Just tried to like get out of the fight, and I'll try and cheat and get out of it. Do a head clash.
It doesn't look like the type, but it doesn't look like the kind of. Maybe I'm just being disrespectful to him, but it doesn't look like the kind of guy who just, fucking stick the head in some cunt. But I don't know. Listen, see what you like about his skill level, but see what he's had about 30 odd fights. Well, not 30 odd, he's had about 26 fights. And he's brave enough to step in there, so who am I to criticise his bravery? But he was clearly wanting a way out from round one. Didn't put up much resistance. To me, it was just almost as if from the first 10 seconds, it's like, oh fuck, what have I got myself into?
Yeah, that first punch that Eubank landed on him, he just turned off then. He was like, fuck this, I need a way out of here. And which is quite disappointing, man, because I look forward to seeing Eubank fight. I think he's exciting to watch. That whole weekend became a shambles, you know, Fury, Klitschko getting cancelled or pushed back, and then Brook getting pushed back, and then this being, you know, the fight on the card, it was just disappointing. The undercard was poor, apart from one fight, the Shafiq Robinson fight. I thought that was a good scrap, but I think we'll talk about that later if you see it too. But yeah, Jetta, man, he was just looking for a way out. Really disappointing. I think the stoppage was fine, man. I think our old referee, what's his name?
Howard Foster.
Yeah, Mr. Foster. I think we criticised him before for, you know, jumping in too early, but that was just a massive mismatch. You know, there's no need for Jetta to get hurt because, you know, EubankJr carries decent power and he could easily have hurt him badly. So we don't really want to see that. So,
you know, fucking Howard Foster threw himself over Tony Jetta like he was a wet blanket, and he was a runaway fire. I was actually kind of, because Tony Jetta was talking a lot on the lead up to the fight, like, quote, I'm a wild dog, and Chris Eubank should know what he's getting himself in for. Well, fucking, if he's a wild dog, then clearly on the night of the fight he had rabies, because Chris Eubank just fucking tamed him.
Turned into a poodle on the night.
Oh, with a single left hook, he was like the dog whisperer. He just quietened that noise.
Yeah.
I never want to see this kind of mismatch again. This ring rust excuse. I mean, I know Andre Ward's getting up to it now. Where I'll give Andre Ward the kind of gimme fight, because he had 2 years out the ring.
He's had a gimme fight
Chris
though.
Eubank.
Oh, you talk about
no
you won't give him another
second.
one. Or you won't give him a second one, you mean?
There's no need for a second gimme fight. But Chris Eubank Jr. was out the ring for 9 months?
Something like that, yeah.
And then he's a fight to shake off the ring rust. I mean, that's not even a fight, that's a fucking execution.
That was a kind of pointless fight. Like, what did it achieve? Nothing. Like, what ring rust did he shake off? Nothing. You only had 2 rounds. He's
It's
probably
a kind
had.
of fight where you're gonna get bad habits.
He's probably had harder spars, you know, in the run up to that fight.
I guarantee you he's had harder spars. Because at least if you're getting a sparring partner, you can kind of tell within like a couple of rounds or whatever, and just get this guy out here, man. Fuck him. Send him home. You know, this guy's came all over the world just to come here and lose. And everybody knows he's not good enough.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you get a domestic guy? I mean, people criticise the middleweight division in the world in general, like it's a weak division, but in the UK it's actually quite strong. You've got a lot of good British middleweights at the moment. You've got fucking Spike O'Sullivan. He's going to be fighting him soon. You've got Nick Blackwell, John Ryder. You've got a couple of guys there you could fight if you wanted a kind of tune-up fight.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But
yeah.
If you're really serious in your ambitions to fight Golovkin, you don't want to be fighting these kind of guys. It's just a bad look. But he's got enough of them on his record, to be fucking honest. I'm a big believer in Chris Eubank Jr. I do personally believe that in maybe 18 months, 2 years, he could really be the second guy in that division after Golovkin. But if he's going to be fucking fighting these kind of matches, then you know you're going to lose a lot of respect. Not amongst the casuals, because they don't know what they're watching, but amongst the hardcores, yeah.
I'm a fan of Eubank Jr., but my biggest issue at the moment is, you know, comments. Did you hear that comment about everybody's running away from Golovkin and I'm running towards him?
Yeah.
Right, well, what have you done lately that's showing me that you're running towards Golovkin apart from calling him out? To me, that's not running towards him. That's just calling him out, because you just fought Jetta, who's just a terrible fight. You fighting Spike O'Sullivan, which is not a great fight, but I allow it because, you know, it's on the undercard of Joshua and Dylan White. And he's probably gonna look at the maybe winner of Quillin and Jacobs, and he'd probably have another fight before that. So maybe he might have a fight in February, March, and then maybe Jacobs or Quillin in summertime. And then he'll probably, if he wins the title, he'll probably defend it against a couple lower tier opposition. So he's not going to fight Golovkin anytime soon. So why make comments like that? I don't really see the point, apart from just trying to get headlines and trying to get on websites and trying to get in newspapers.
Well, he's doing the right thing in that respect. You know, like you said, he's running towards Golovkin. That's great, but you're not going to be fucking sprinting there if you're fighting these kind of guys. You know, it seems quite, I know I don't use this word a lot, but disingenuous. You know, we're playing coalition bingo. I'm going to use up all my catchphrases in the first 5 minutes, but it's a disingenuous fucking attitude to have if you're going to be really... Everybody can beat a bum. You know, if you fought fucking Tony Jr., you would have a shot.
I think I could beat Tony Jr.
I mean, he's got knocked out with guys losing records.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And he is really a fucking... I'm not even going to say a D-level fighter. He's a E-level fighter, and the fact that he is ranked by the fucking WBA fucking tells its own story. I mean, they must... I honestly think they just see a name at random and just say, okay, we'll have him. He's in the fucking rankings. Because it's not as if fucking Tony Jr. is a ticket seller. He's not going to give them a big sanctioning fee. So it's quite fucking baffling how he can be ranked.
WBA for you, man. Like, that's not got into the WBA because we could be shitting on them all night. Let's move on. Did you see it in the undercard fights, Stu?
Not going to lie, mate, I did not.
No problem. Let me just give my thoughts on the few that I did see. I did see the Gavin McDonald Jeremy Parody fight. It was a bit of a boring fight, 12 round UD. Both guys a bit feather fisted, but I've definitely seen improvement in Gavin McDonald. I've seen him in a couple previous fights, and he's like the lesser brother. But this performance on Saturday showed improvement. I think he's with Coldwell now, training with Dave Coldwell like his brother is, and I kind of rate Coldwell now as like a young British trainer. He's got some. He's got Bellew, he's got Gavin, and he's got Jamie. He's got a few other young prospects, and yeah, tactically I think he's good. He has good game plans, and he's good in the corner as well. So yeah, props to Mr. Gavin McDonald, defended his European title. The Lee Wood Josh Whale fight. I set my phone because after work I had a nap for about 2.5 hours and kind of overslept a bit. Caught the fight like half an hour in, and seemed like an average scrap, to be honest, so I'm not going to give too much thoughts about that. The fight of the night, it actually happened after the EubankJr Jetta fight, because I think Robinson was a big ticket seller, and I think Atif Shafiq from Doncaster as well. No, he's not from Doncaster, he's from Rotherham, just across the M1, other side of Sheffield, and he's with the Ingle gym, and it was really fun fight to watch, man. Robinson got dropped in the first round with a nice kind of like, I think it was a left hook or like a left 45. I think he shot the jab and then countered him with the hook. And I liked Atif Shafiq's patience as well. He didn't try and jump on Robinson and do anything stupid and maybe get dropped himself. Just kind of thought, this is the first round, let me take it easy. Really impressed with Shafiq's jab. It's just maybe he just throws too many single shots at some points. And I was talking to Wasif, who's in the chat at the moment, while I was watching the fight on Twitter. And I was saying, you know, when he's throwing pound punches, he always drops his opposite hand. So if he's throwing a left hook, his right hand will drop. If he's throwing a right cross, his left hand will drop. And I think that's his biggest issue. He needs to tighten up on that, because he did get hit by Robinson in some of the later rounds, and he was visibly hurt. And I don't know what his chin's like. He was hurt a few times. I don't know how big of a puncher Jamie Robinson is. He's just looking at his box ruck now. He's only got 2 KOs, so I don't know. Maybe
massive puncher.
Yeah, maybe my boy, my new Pakistani boy Atif Shafiq's hiding a bit of glass like Amir. But think time will tell. Fun fight. The crowd got into that one as well. Local derby. Yeah, if you guys are bored this week, definitely try and catch that fight. I know Davey Boy Essex puts fights up on YouTube, so I'm not sure if he has put that one up, but check his account. That's about it for the undercard. Should we move on to Nebraska?
Let's do it.
All right, Lim. Before the show started, you were one of the first ones on the Skype line, and we were just kind of discussing that you were one of the first guys on the Crawford bandwagon. You were driving it, and you kind of slowly fell off it.
Yeah, I think I fell off it. Maybe because Crawford is that good, or maybe just because of his opposition really isn't that great. And I'll just start it off with HBO's terrible commentary. Did you guys catch the HBO telecast, or did you guys catch it through some other broadcast?
No, I heard it. I heard the HBO.
Yeah, HBO was fucking terrible. The way they were big up in Crawford. So maybe it's my how much I hate their commentary that's affecting how I view Crawford. But I thought their play-by-play, and especially their analysis on Crawford, was just fucking despicable.
In what sense?
Just talking about Roy Jones, talking about Crawford's power, vis-a-vis Golovkin, talking about his resume, trying to, groom him as the next Pacquiao opponent. It's okay if he fights Pacquiao, but it's based nothing on merit. It's not based on his resume or who he's fought. Crawford looks sensational because he really hasn't fought anyone that great. I mean, who's his best name on his resume? Is it Gamboa? Is it Delorme? I mean, who is it? Who's his best win on his resume? Gamboa to me isn't even. He's not even a lightweight.
Chew, you're not picking Ricky Burns, Chew.
Huh?
Chew, how can you not pick your boy Ricky Burns as his best opponent?
Oh yeah, but it's how he won the Gamboa fight. He knocked him spark out.
Yeah.
Gamboa was undefeated. Gamboa, Cuban Olympic star. Gamboa, there was a lot of hype behind Gamboa at one point. Ricky Burns is my boy. However, there's not been that kind of respect shown towards Ricky Burns the same way there was towards Gamboa. I'm quite surprised at Dan. I know Dan was a fucking big. I remember when Crawford Ricky Burns was happening, there was no bigger cheerleader for Terence Crawford than Daniel Lim.
Yeah, but maybe that's because that was at lightweight. I look at him at 140, and I was talking about this with Kim as well. If he fights the bigger guys at 140 and at welterweight, does that kind of boxing skill, does that transition? Because I'm not quite sure. Do you think Crawford has elite level power or elite level boxing skills? What really separates him from the top of the line guys? And look, I'm already saying Crawford is that good. I think Crawford is probably the first or second best 140 pounder, and I think he'd be a top 5 welterweight. I'm just taking a look at his future opponents against guys like Manny, guys like Kell Brook and Keith Thurman. Like, how does he fare against those guys?
Well, we're going into the hypothetical territory, but I'll entertain it, Daniel. I think Crawford has got the kind of power where if you don't see the shot coming, you could knock anyone out. And he's so tricky with his switch hitting that he could catch anyone and just put them away. And I think he's a good finisher as well. I mean, we've seen plenty of guys who have got knockout power, but they don't know how to finish a guy when they're hurt. Whereas I think Crawford knows how to finish a guy. And I think that's 75% of it.
That's a good point. And to me, Crawford did a great job of all those things you just mentioned, but not necessarily in this fight. I felt he had Jean. I don't know how you feel about this, Cam, but I felt like he could have stopped this fight on numerous occasions, and he didn't. And to me, Jean, he's not a good fighter. Talk about a guy like Jeter. You said he's an E-level fighter. I think Jean is like a D-level fighter, so he's a little bit better, but I don't think he's that much better. So I don't know. I do admit that I'm being a little bit too negative on Crawford because I was leading that hype train, like you mentioned, for a long time. And to me, I think Crawford. I'd pick him over Postol. So I think he is the king at 140. But I just don't. I guess what I have an issue with is him versus Pacquiao, just based on what he's accomplished so far. I don't feel like he's accomplished that much to warrant a fight against Manny.
I'm not a big fan of Dierry Jean. Changed 2 letters and he's a Michael Jackson song. But in terms of he's not a D level fighter. He's a C level fighter. I'd say he's a C plus.
Okay.
And
Well,
I'd say
we both agree he's not that good, though.
He actually caught Terence Crawford a couple of times with sneaky right hands. So I would say that he's not a fucking bum. He's not a bad fighter. However, there's levels to this shit, and I think Terence Crawford is really, he shouldn't be fighting these kind of guys constantly. I know he's not got much opposition over there at top rank, but to go from Dierry Jean to Manny Pacquiao, I don't really see the progression or the fucking have you earned it.
No, but I'm not even looking at that fight. I'm just looking at his entire resume. I mean, you mentioned Gamboa as being his best opponent, but again, Gamboa is a natural 130 pounder. He has no business fighting at 135. That Gamboa versus Crawford is like, in my opinion, a fight between two guys who are 2 weight classes separated. So, I mean, if that's not his best fight, then is it Ricky Burns? I mean, is it Ray Beltran, a Friday night fighter type of level guy? I mean, I don't know.
This is fucking bizarre, man. We used to argue about this. What about the eye test, Dan?
I know, but the thing is, at some point, I guess the reason why I was so high on Crawford back then is because nobody really knew about him, right? So it's fair to use the eye test when you're talking about a guy who isn't a known commodity. But now Terence Crawford has aborted and has ridden that fucking HBO hype train across 2 continents, and he has not proven anything against a top level guy. And I need to see that. And I was discussing this with Cam earlier too. A lot of people shit on Keith Thurman, and they don't want to give him like a Floyd level type of name because Keith Thurman hasn't approved anything on his resume, so to speak. Right? To me, Keith Thurman's resume is a lot better than Terence Crawford. So what does that say about Crawford?
I agree. However, those 2 promotional entities are not playing by the same rules. One side has got about 20 fighters. The other side have got 6 fighters. Who else is Manny Pacquiao going to fight? Is he going to fight Timothy Bradley again? Is he going to fight Brandon Rios again? Provodnikov's already lost a fucking bunch of times. He's got no one else to fight. I think personally that Crawford beats Pacquiao. You don't? You guys don't?
You know what? I don't think so. I'd pick Manny in a very close fight. I think Manny would be a little bit. He'd be faster to the punch. He'd be quicker to the punch. And also was kind of discussing this with Cam. I think Manny would force that Crawford fight to be kind of fought in the pocket. And I don't think Crawford is that good of an inside fighter, just because he has trouble shortening up his shots because his limbs are so long.
Yeah, I think if they fought in April, I would give Pacquiao the edge. I think if they fought like a year, 18 months later, and Crawford got some more experience with better opposition, I'd probably pick Crawford. But as Dan said, I'm high on Crawford as well. It's just his opposition needs to improve. I think this is a bit of a wasted year for Crawford. I think last year was quite successful. 3 fights, came overseas, beat Burns, beat Gamboa in Nebraska, massive crowd, big fight, exciting fight. Beltran fight was a bit boring, but you can give him a pass. And this year, like the Delorme fight was okay. He kind of gave Delorme a few rounds, just to figure him out, and then pounced on him. But this Jean fight was terrible. I was saying to Dan before we started, like Dierry Jean's only fucking hope was to kind of get on his chest and try and work the body or something. But I've seen Dierry Jean fight before, and that's not his style. His style's to kind of fight at range and to box. And soon as fucking Terence Crawford turned southpaw, like Dierry Jean didn't know what to do, man. Like he had his fencing hand up, his jabbing hand, and he just fucking Crawford was just tapping his jab down and just punching him in the face. And that first knockdown at the end of the first round, it was a sweet shot. He didn't see it coming, dropped him, saved by the bell. And as Dan said earlier, I think if Crawford wanted to, I think he could have stopped him in 4 or 5 rounds. I'm glad he didn't, because I had the 9th and it was a 10th round knockout, and I got my extra 10 points in the prediction league, so I didn't really mind. But if he would have stepped up a bit, I think he could have took him out. I just hope now, obviously he's not going to fight again this year. I hope next year is a bit more competitive for him.
And the thing is, at least Jeter did us the favor of getting knocked out in 2 rounds. Jean had to drag that shit out for 9 rounds. That's what really pissed me off. But all jokes aside, I don't understand fighters like Jean. First of all, you talk a lot of smack, you talk a lot of shit in the build up to the fight, and you don't act upon that. You fake aggression. And secondly, I don't understand fighters who just fight to survive, because like you rightfully mentioned, Cam, before the show started, when you go out there and you fight on your shield, that will lead to better fights in the future, right? Because fans respect the kind of fighter you are. And secondly, if you fight in the manner that Jean did, I mean, you present little to no opportunities for you to actually win the fight. And the only success that he was having was with that straight right hand. And if he was only willing to throw that once or twice around, I mean, you're really guaranteeing a loss for yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I think what Cam was touching on earlier, as soon as Terence Crawford turned southpaw, you saw Dierry Jean try to tip, he was trying to jab with him, and Terence Crawford was just touching his jab down. But they say one of the hardest skills in boxing is to hook off the jab. Fucking Terence Crawford turned southpaw, was fucking deflecting Dierry Jean's jab away, and then fucking with a knockdown in the first round. He fucking got him with a great fucking right hook. And before the fight, I actually saw a great interview, and it's on Top Rank's YouTube page. It's called Terence Crawford All Access Becoming a Great Southpaw. It's basically Terence Crawford getting interviewed outside his family home. And it was actually a great story. He got an infection in his arm when he was in 10th grade. So he couldn't use his right arm anymore. So he went from being a very right-handed fighter to just going to the gym for months, just using only his left. And he was a big fan of the Rocky movies, apparently. Especially the third one with Mr. T. And the shot that he caught Dierry Jean with, he was actually shadowboxing in the interview that I'm talking about. That same punch. And he basically said he used to catch everyone with that right hook. So, the moral of the story is Dierry Jean should have fucking watched that video. Maybe he could have fucking defended it, because I knew what was happening.
All jokes aside, though, as soon as he switched, it looked like Dierry Jean didn't have any southpaw sparring in his camp at all. Like he had no adjustment to Crawford being a southpaw, and Crawford's done that many times before. You'd think that Jean would maybe get some decent southpaw sparring. He could have called me. I could have gone to Canada. All expenses paid. Give him some decent southpaw sparring, but obviously not.
The Southpaw Union, all 10 of you. It's a very fashionable thing to fucking switch it in boxing nowadays. I'm surprised they couldn't get, it's not like back in the fucking 80s where you had about 2 southpaws.
Yeah.
Everybody and their dog is a southpaw nowadays, so I'm surprised they couldn't get some southpaw sparring.
Yep.
Yeah. And for me, what was, I guess, the most disheartening part about this fight was knowing that Mikey Garcia versus Terence Crawford was the fight that I think a lot of us were clamoring for a couple of years ago. And that's the fight I still want to see. Even Mikey, the version of Mikey who hasn't fought in I don't know, a year and a half or 2 years or so. I just think from a stylistic perspective, even more so than Crawford versus Postol or Crawford versus Imam, I think Mikey versus Terence is such a great fight on so many different levels. I think the first being is that they're such different punchers. To me, Mikey he's just a beautiful counter puncher. His shots are so short and concise. And like Cam and I were mentioning before, like he has a beautiful jab that's straight to the point and a right hand that is just as equally efficient. And I think, I don't know, I actually think Mikey has more power in a single punch than Crawford does. So, that's, again, a fight that I would have loved to see, but probably one that we're not going to see for a long time.
Just have you ever saw the Ellie Segback video where Mikey Garcia is fighting basically a guy off the street who heckled him?
Yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
You saw that, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep.
I was thinking that's probably harder opposition than what fucking half the matchroom fighters I've got recently, man.
Especially relative to their weight classes.
Yep.
So
exactly.
I think, I don't know. Mikey is. I miss Mikey a lot. I know Cam was really high on Mikey, but I was high on Mikey too. I think Mikey has a great style, and he's just his right hand is just so powerful. I think Mikey is a lot more powerful than Crawford is on a single punch basis. I feel like that right hand, when it connects on a jaw, I think that's a one punch knockout punch. Whereas Crawford is more of a guy who accumulates his punches and gets rid of his opponents that way.
I will speak on Mickey Garcia in just a second, but just to kind of finalise on the Manny Pacquiao thing, I can't see Manny Pacquiao getting past that jab. I think Terence Crawford is 5'8", but unlike a lot of boxers who kind of lie about their height, I do think he is legitimately 5'8". He's not 5'7" or 5'6". He's 5'8", nearly 5'9", and he's got long reach. And I do anticipate Manny having success early on, kind of like Gamboa did. But I do see him basically eating that jab all night. And I don't think anyone's going to knock anyone out in that fight, but I do see Crawford winning on points unless they rob him. But in terms of Mickey Garcia, man, he needs to get back in the ring. It's as simple as that. It's you can't just immediately straight away expect you're going to get a Crawford fight as well. What weight's he going to campaign at? Is he going to campaign at lightweight? 140? So he needs to step into the very fucking deep waters of 140. I'm being sarcastic here. And actually fight someone.
With all the sharks.
Fucking with all the minnows, right?
Yeah, all the piranhas of 140. I mean, I don't know who would fight to get yourself into contender status. Maybe Matisse. That would be a great fight. Mickey Garcia, Matisse, something like that. But he needs to basically fight someone first. I don't know what the fucking hold up is. Is he still under fucking legal troubles with Top Rank? Who knows?
To be honest, I've not kept up with the situation, but I presume that's the issue. I think he's trying to just let his contract fade out, but that makes the issue with Crawford not happening then, because if he goes over to Heyman or a different promoter, he's not going to be able to fight Crawford anyway.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really see, like, if he's too small to be a welterweight, Mickey Garcia, in my opinion. And over in Al Heyman's side of it, I don't really see who they've got at 140 anymore. I mean, they did have Danny Garcia, but I don't really see who they've got at 140 that would kind of entice them the same way they, a Manny Pacquiao fight or a Terence Crawford fight could. So
I guess Broner. That's the only name I could think of top of my head.
It'd be a good fight, but it's not really going to put you down as an all-time great if you beat Adrian Broner.
True. Alright, let's move on to the undercard, unless you guys got anything else last to say.
No, but a member in the chat, Leslie333, said, how about a Ricky Burns rematch? Hey, Ricky could use some money, right?
He certainly could. In Omaha, I mean, he's already fought in Glasgow, so why doesn't Ricky Burns fight in Omaha? I've always said if Ricky Burns fights better when he's not fighting in Glasgow.
The pressure's off the shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's trying too hard to please the Glasgow fans when he fights in Glasgow, and he fights in a style which is not suited to him.
So are you saying that he beats Crawford in Omaha?
No, of course not. He gets knocked out. But I mean, he'll give a good show of it, man. I mean, he's already proven that. I mean, during Ricky Burns, this is a fucking black hole, I know, but let me just say the sentence and we'll fucking abandon this thing. The side of the road, okay? Ricky Burns has already proven the doubt was wrong, because during his reign, everybody in every American fan basically, and everybody who wasn't from Scotland was saying that he was a fraud champion, that he didn't have any kind of notable names on his record. But I mean, you only have to look at the Omar Figueroa fight. People were expecting him to get knocked out, and he arguably won.
He didn't win that fight, you.
I'll be honest with you, Cam. I agree with you, but it was close enough. If someone was to say to me that Ricky Burns won that, I'm not going to argue with you. You know what I mean?
Okay.
All right.
All right, we can move on.
The Ricky Burns black hole. All right, just quickly.
I love it when Chu talks
One
about
every show.
Ricky Burns.
No, me and Chu are gonna go toe to toe one day about Ricky Burns, but we'll see. We'll save it for another day. Anyone see the undercard?
Who was on it?
I saw Jojo Diaz and Ruben Tamayo.
Yeah, that was.
Tried to watch the Gradovic fight, but there was too much blood, man. Come on.
Yeah, the other two fights, Georgia Diaz, that was on Friday. Quickly with undercard, Gradovic was an 8-rounder, split decision, struggled with the Brazilian Santos.
What a bum.
Yeah, it was a really poor fight. Andy Ruiz was on there against Zumbano Love, who got starched out by Anthony Joshua a couple months ago. Andy Ruiz, man, it's probably one of the few times I've seen him. And I was talking to Christoph on Twitter, and I said, like Ruiz, he's kind of fun to watch because he's got decent hand speed for a heavyweight. He throws lots of shots, but they were saying, he's lost 30 pounds since last year, and he was like almost 300 last year. Now he's like 250, 260, and I'm like, that's not fucking, that's not a big thing. He's gone from, I think Christoph said he's gone from morbidly obese to just being obese. And he's quite small for heavyweight. I think he's like 6'1". Box record, I have him at 6'1", or 6'2".
If he ate properly, he could probably fight Triple G next.
He probably could, he could probably make 160 or 168, but I don't know, man.
So he might be pound for pound number one, Cam.
Possibly, you never know. But it was a fun fight. Zumbano Love took a lot of shots, man. Ended up being 8-round UD, and that's about it. There's Michael Zwiski was on there. I've never seen him before. He got a knockout in the 5th round. Yeah, and that's it.
Nice.
Let's move on. Let's talk about pay-per-view figures. A lot of controversy, a lot of discussion this week about Triple G, Lemieux pay-per-view figures. Quickly, my opinion. It's announced it did about 150,000, just over.
Let's establish that first, because I've heard reports going from 97,000 to 150,000. So, are you positive that it's 150? So, are you positive about that figure, Ken?
I'm not positive, but
if anyone in the chat knows for certain.
Well, Lofa made an announcement, and he said that just over 150,000 pay-per-view buys. So if he's saying that, he said that on Thursday night, I presume it's correct.
Well, Mark TMT and Michael Live Dogs 24 are both saying 97k. Of course, those guys are from Lucky Boxing. They're not biased in any way. Shout out to them. I listened to their podcast, but I heard it was Glazer who said it was 97k. This guy has got this Glazer guy has got some kind of mythological thing where if he just says something, everybody just believes it. And does he have any evidence that it was 97k? He's basically just saying sources. What's his sources?
The sources?
That word similar to sources, but mine. 97k. I phoned up the Boxing Voice. Fucking, this is like a podcast bingo, I'm saying. I phoned up the Boxing Voice on Thursday and I said, I heard it was 97k. I've since found out that there's actually no proof that it was 97k. So it was 150k. Either way, 150k is shit.
Yeah,
You know,
that was the point I was
really
going to
brought
make to you. In a way, even though I'm a big fan of Triple G, I'm glad that it was a bit shit, because otherwise they would just feed us pay-per-views from now on. Like, if it would have been pay-per-view success, then we're fucked. Well, we're not fucked in the UK because we're not paying it, but it probably would have an effect on Box Nation or Sky if they planned to show it. But obviously, it would cause a big issue for all the American fans that have to pay $60-$70 to watch Triple G fighting a nobody.
Yeah, but it also kind of has a ripple effect, because now it lets guys, and you guys aren't going to believe that I'm saying this, and it pains me to say this, but it lets people like Canelo say absolutely bitch-made statements that a pussy would say, and that pains me.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. Which
I'm just saying they go hand in hand with one another, right? Just because if Triple G doesn't generate large numbers, it lets some of these other guys just avoid him. They'll just say that he's not enough of a draw, he's not enough of an opponent, he's not enough of a name. So it sucks either way. It's not good for the sport. I think Triple G doing a lot of numbers would be better for the overall health of the sport. It might not be beneficial in terms of the opponents that we get to see him fight, but I really don't think that even matters, Cam, just because I feel like there's such a dearth in the guys that he could fight to begin with. So I don't really think it makes that much of a difference.
Chu, your thoughts?
Yeah, just fucking. It's quite bad in the sense that, Canelo's already kind of taken advantage of it. Fucking Canelo's saying that Triple G should come down to 155. I mean, you can't even make 155.
The worst thing is, he's not even asking him to come down to actual weight class.
I know, right?
He's like he's pointing at Golovkin and said, "You come down to fucking 150,
like,
and I'll meet you there."
Can you imagine going out in the street and just telling someone you hate, "Hey, let's fight at 174"? Just making random figures. Like, that's to me what it is. It's such a joke, right? I mean, it's just so arbitrary, right? The fact that you're fighting for the middleweight belt at 155. I mean, how much of a sham is that? You're fighting for the 160-pound, lineal championship of the world, and yet you're fighting at 5 pounds below the weight limit. It makes no sense.
Yeah, you're making up the fucking rules as you go along.
Yeah.
But he can, because he is the new cash cow in boxing after Floyd left. So every kind of advantage he gets, it'll be they walk around at the same weight. It'll be as tough to get down to that weight for him as well than it would be for Golovkin. I mean, they would both be fucked getting down to that weight. So why don't you just fucking fight at 160? I mean, I bet fucking Canelo's great at 160. I bet he's got fucking more stamina at 160 than I ever did at this fucking pseudo weight that he's fucking campaigning at. And I'm a fan of Canelo, man.
Me too.
But he should just fucking man up. I mean, he's meant to be this kind of hero amongst the fucking the hardcore fan, because he'll fight anybody. Yeah. But if you're not going to fight Golovkin, then really that fucking title should get taken from you and be called the bitch that you are.
I don't know about bitch of the year, but definitely that decision in a vacuum is a bitch-made decision. And this may be just my negativity drawing from the sport, but it feels like after you reach a certain level in the sport of boxing, like, it's such a business that people just end up inevitably making these decisions that just reek of cowardness. And it just becomes the norm. It's just accepted, and that's just ridiculous. Because if whoever the winner of Cotto Canelo is, you should just fucking vacate. If you don't fight Triple G, just vacate the moment you win that belt. Just give it up. Just give it to Triple G the very moment that bell rings. Because neither one of those fighters has any business carrying that belt if they're not going to fight Triple G. It's a fucking joke.
Just find a bin and dump it like Riddick Bowe style.
Yeah.
I'm gonna drop another name. I'm like the fucking rapper of the game. I'm just dropping names everywhere, man. But fucking Vic from the Boxing Voice, he made a good tweet midweek. He said that pay attention to the Cotto Cotto Canelo pay-per-view numbers, and then we'll get a good barometer of whether the sport is doing well or not. Because the Floyd fight didn't do good numbers, the Golovkin fight didn't do good numbers. So if this fight is fucking poor, then maybe the sport is in trouble. But I think fans are not stupid. They know for this fucking the WBA, for example, they're a joke. This fucking catchweight business, that's a joke. And the fights that the fucking top guys are fighting, such as Chris Eubank Jr., such as Andre Ward, these guys aren't getting good competitive fights. Even Terence Crawford, he's not in a good fight. You know what I mean? So I think the fans are fed up. Even Golovkin, I've got to say, I'm a fan of Golovkin, but I mean, these fights aren't fucking competitive. So really, the fan is just kind of fed up, I think. Why would you pay for that?
Yeah.
Hopefully, it'll force the powers that be to make good fights. That's all we want.
Yeah, and actually that is true. The Cotto Canelo, I think, is a good benchmark in terms of the overall health of the sport, just because they're two relatively large names that have both speared a pay-per-view in the past and have done relatively well from that perspective. And it's a great matchup. They're two, again, very well-known fighters. It's Puerto Rico versus Mexico. There's absolutely no reason for this fight not to do good numbers. I think there's always been, for the past two pay-per-views, there were very identifiable excuses as to why the fights didn't do well. But if Cotto Canelo does, say, less than six, I think it should do at least 700,000 buys, just because Margarito Cotto, I think, did 550, and Margarito is nowhere near of a name that Canelo ever was. So to me, if this does less than 700, that's a dud.
But guys, remember when the fight was first announced, you were saying it was going to do more than $1 million.
I know, right? But I guess we're tempering our statements now that these past two pay-per-views have done such a shitty job. And the crazy thing is there's really no talk about this fight at all. I know the fight is, more than, I think, 4 weeks away or about that time span, but no one's talking about it here in the States. So I'm getting kind of worried.
Yeah,
I've noticed that too. I don't know if it's just the after effect because of the Golovkin fight and or do you think everyone's going to get excited as soon as the 24/7s are released? Or I hope so anyway, because it's a big fight that I'm looking forward to. But I agree, it's not at the hype.
I agree. And a couple of guys in the chat bring up good points that perhaps the 24/7 is going to generate all the interest, which is fair, but in my opinion, these level of fights, the fights that do over 1 million, they're that type of interest. It starts before that. It's just inherent. And it's kind of crazy that we're talking about 1 million. I mean, we took 1 million for granted when Pacquiao was fighting guys like even what's his face? I think Pacquiao against the African guy. Who's the African guy he fought? I think that did over 1 million. Fucking Floyd Mayweather versus Victor Ortiz versus Robert. I think Guerrero did like 950 or 900 or something, but it's crazy to think that if Cotto Canelo can even break 800,000, like who in the future ever is going to break a 1 million on a consistent basis, But I don't know, perhaps the sport's in a better place if it's in that way, right? Maybe boxing is better off if pay-per-views aren't in that range anymore, but we just get better quality fights on a consistent basis. I don't know, who knows?
Yeah, just to kind of follow up on that point, I mean, would you say, Dan, that Miguel Cotto was a household name?
When he fought Pacquiao?
No, just in general, like in America.
No. Well, no. I mean, Canelo's not even a household name in America. I think they're both prominent fighters in respective areas within the United States that have a high Puerto Rican or Mexican demographic. But in terms of the mainstream, I don't think most Americans know who either fighter is, to tell you the truth.
Well, that just tells you something, man. I mean, Miguel Cotto is probably the second biggest star in boxing. He's not even a household name. I mean, he's known in his community. You know what I mean? But so's my neighbourhood. I know the hardest guy in my neighbourhood, but that doesn't make him no one else knows him. You know what I mean? That's a bad analogy, but
It's a very poor analogy. The only way that analogy would work was if your neighborhood had a population of about 20 to 40 million people. So.
yeah, no. The point, Miguel Cotto is local. You know, boxing fans know him, but
No, I get you. I understand. I mean, the point kind of stands, though. I do think so because, you know, Cotto Floyd did what 1.5, Canelo Floyd did 2.2. So I don't think this fight. I really hope that it is large numbers because on paper it is such a great matchup. Like I'm so hyped for this fight, but if this fight doesn't do well, you know, I really do think that people in the sport, especially the promoters, obviously are going to kind of reevaluate their thought process into how to make fights and just the overall pay-per-view structure in general. You know, because like you mentioned, Golovkin, Lemieux, that didn't even break even, right? It had to break, I think, what 200 to be considered a marginal success. So
I think 150 was the
break
break-even
even.
point. So
Okay.
Tom Loeffler says.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I don't really trust Loeffler. I think Loeffler is a snake. He's not a snake, but I don't believe a single word he says. He spews a lot of bullshit, in my opinion. So, and
He does have that kind of
people are
face, eh?
over. Oh, my bad, to cut you off, too. But people are really overrating this fucking Golovkin Apple commercial and trying to equate that with any kind of popularity that he has. First of all, the fucking commercial, there's no reference to his name on it whatsoever. It's just a guy shadowboxing. I mean, that could be fucking you, too. Or it could be that guy you were talking about in your neighborhood. Nobody knows who this guy is. It's just some guy shadowboxing, right?
That is Golovkin is the guy in my neighborhood, man.
But I'm just saying that doesn't really. So what? He has a Jordan jacket with Triple G on the branding. Like, what does that mean? You know? It's like, come on. I think this Triple G hype was kind of getting overblown. And it's funny that we're talking about this, and it's good for my finances because I actually have a pair of Grant gloves that were signed by Triple G. So I better sell that shit before he goes off into oblivion. So I'm gonna go on eBay right now, actually. So take over for me, guys.
Yeah. Anyone interested in them, contact Lim or contact me directly. I'll take a 10% fee.
I'll do a best offer at 500. So shoot me your offers, guys.
It's funny you mentioned that, though. Sorry, Cam. You know, everybody talks about Triple G being managed well. Can't even get his fucking name on the advert. It's almost as if he's been done. It's like, okay, we need a boxer.
No, because you remember the week before, I think even I was praising that commercial. I was saying that, oh, look at Triple G. You know, he's so popular. He's got an Apple commercial. And it's like you look at the thing for 15 seconds and you're like, who is this guy? I don't know who this is. This could be some personal trainer that works at my gym for all that matters, you know? So.
Yeah, like the casual fan will be like, who the fuck's this weird guy? Just shadowboxing.
Right.
It could literally be anyone. And, you know, just to kind of segue back, I don't think Tom Loeffler's done a particularly great job now. Good in the sense that he's selling out arenas and shit. That side of it, you know, he's selling out tickets. But how much are those tickets selling for? I think KH has talked about this before. I mean, it's cheap. It's cheaper than, you know, a lot of stars, like a Cotto fight or a fucking Mayweather fight. You know, you might sell out the arenas, but you actually, you know, selling the expensive seats that you would get in maybe in a Vegas fight.
Yeah, but you play devil's advocate, chew bingo. Is it not good for their fans that can afford those seats rather than being overpriced?
I tip my hat to you. You got me on that one.
Thank you, sir.
But the point is, like, you're talking about generating a profit and breaking even in a fight where they struggled on pay-per-view. You know, it's not a given that you're selling out 20,000 that's going to make up the difference because the tickets are selling so relatively cheaply.
Yeah. I also think we can't overblow this either. I mean, Kev Cage was there at the fight. I was there at the fight. And like some people mentioned in the chat, 20,000 people is 20,000, right? There's not too many guys currently in the sport that can bring 20,000 people into an arena, at least here in the States. I know it's nothing for you guys over there in the UK, but you try to get 8,000 fans in an arena here in the States. That's quite an accomplishment in and of itself. And I don't know. I think Triple G, maybe his ceiling is just really really solid fights that generate, I don't know, like 1.7 million people on HBO, and maybe that's the trajectory of his career. It's okay if he's not a pay-per-view star, but I think this fight is kind of telling, because I thought Lemieux was, at least on paper, from a casual perspective, was a pretty attractive fight. And I think Cam was right. I think at first I thought Cam was being a little bit too negative about the fight, but I think Cam was totally accurate. Maybe people did see through the bullshit. So it's unfortunate, because I think the only chance that Triple G has of generating large pay-per-view numbers from here is as a B-side. And he might have to shrink down to 155 pounds for that, or at least according to my guy Canelo. So
regarding that, Lim, I want to give you some props, because you've been a big fan of Canelo. You always defend him at most opportunities, but you've been it's refreshing to hear that you kind of criticise him where he needs to be criticised, because when I first heard that statement about come down to 155 and I'll fight you in 2 years, that was terrible, man. So props to you for keeping it real.
No, I mean, I love Canelo, but he can be a diva at times. I mean, he's not as much of a diva as Cotto is, but regardless, he kind of parades himself as this fucking warrior that fights every single person. And if you're gonna do that, you gotta fight every single person at a legitimate weight. And secondly, I think he tried to justify his statement by saying that he made the mistake when he fought Floyd. Floyd made him shrink down to 152. And I don't know if Canelo is just mentally retarded, but I don't know why he would say that. He would use the same kind of logic against Triple G. You're essentially making your opponent go through the same shit that you blamed, your loss on. So, how does that make sense? So, to me, that was just extremely disappointing. And I think I kind of understand how you feel, Cam, when Amir Khan opens up his mouth a lot. So I was just really disappointed with that.
Yeah, sometimes you can't defend him. You have to keep it real.
Yep.
All right. Chu, you were mentioning the Jojo Diaz fight earlier. Did you watch the whole fight, or?
Yeah, I was watching it, but it was just one of these fights where it was quite fucking boring. I'll be honest with you. I was kind of transfixed by how boring it is. Ruben Tamayo, tough guy. I think he fought Oscar Valdez the previous fight.
In his last fight, yeah.
Yeah, and he gave Oscar Valdez a tough fight. He's just one of these guys where it's tough to look good against him. He's not a bad fighter by any means.
And he fought Cuellar in his fight before that, got stopped in the 5th round. So
that shows you that fucking Cuellar's a good fighter then, because Jojo Diaz struggled, I thought.
I don't think he struggled. I think he was dominant, but it's just I don't think he's got that type of power. But his combination punches, nice, man. He puts his punches together very nicely.
He does, but I think he's quite. I'm not going to say slow, because when he gets going, he's fast. But I thought his jab was slow. I thought he was kind of. There's no energy to him. He's like a fucking sloth in there. Relatively speaking. I think he knew he could win this fight. But it's how you want to win. Do you want to take risks and get the guy out of there potentially, or do you want to just fucking keep it safe and get a points win? You choose the latter. I did generally watch the fight, but I couldn't tell you any highlights from the fight because I didn't really see any.
Yeah, there weren't. I agree with you. I watched it today. Shout to Ring Magazine Live. They had it live, a live stream on Friday when it was being aired. And if you go to the same page, you can watch a replay of it in at least 720p quality. It doesn't have the quality listed, but to me it looked at least 720p. Got Doug Fisher at ringside with Steve Kim. And yeah, I think, for free boxing, something to watch, it's alright. I think it's also broadcast on Estrella TV in the States. It's not a channel we get over here, but yeah, it's free to watch. But the reason I mentioned that card is because Frankie Gomez was also on it. And Lim, I wanted to speak with you about Gomez. That fight was supposed to be at 147, but I think a few days before, his team said, we're not going to be able to make the weight, and they were renegotiated to 150. and he looked very fleshy, man. I know you didn't watch the fight, Lim, but just his own kind of mental preparation. Do you think Frankie Gomez is going to be a wasted talent?
You think I didn't watch the fight?
You might have, but I don't think you would have.
Of course I did. No, I saw the fight. I mean, I love Frankie, man. Frankie's a really good guy. He's actually one of the few fighters my mom we've met. I actually took Frankie out to dinner a couple of years ago with my parents. It was pretty awkward, but it was a lot of fun.
Are you joking?
No, I'm not joking. I'm pretty close to Frankie. I like Frankie a lot. He's talented as fuck, man. I know mitt work doesn't mean shit, but you watch Frankie do the mitts, the kid is an absolute beast. But
yeah, but fucking Freddie Roach is probably hiding a lollipop behind the mitts, man.
I don't know, but I saw that regarding the fight though. He was so out of shape. I mean, that was pretty evident to watch. His stamina is shit. I don't know, mate. I think he still has time to turn it around because he's so young. He's 23 years old, right? So I don't think there's any reason why he wouldn't be able to turn it around. But I think if I had to bet on it, Cam, I'd probably say that he's never going to be a world champion. Just because at welterweight, he's too small to fight at 147, right? And he should be a 140 pounder, but he just has so much trouble with his weight. And also, I think his power is kind of deceiving as well, which I hate to say, but he looks so explosive doing the mitts and when he spars and when he hits the bag and whatnot. But I still haven't seen him really, light someone the fuck out. So I'm not quite sure where his advantages lie, especially at welterweight.
Yeah, none of his punches were having any type of effect on Jorge Silva, man. He was taking everything up. He was even like fucking kind of taking the piss out of Gomez, saying, hit me harder, dropping his hands and stuff. Very one-sided fight, but it wasn't an easy fight for Gomez, especially I think it was the 6th round. It was a head clash and Gomez was cut under his left eye and it started to swell up a bit. And then in the 9th, there was a even worse head clash, but I think Silva came off worse for wear, and that one, top of his head was bleeding. Nothing, it wasn't going to his eye, but it was a big cut, a lot of blood, and Frankie got a little cut under his left eyebrow as well. Very fleshy, man, from his waist. He looked like he was trying, not to use too much energy, for the full 10. Like he was saving some in the tank. It's one of the few times I've seen him, so I'll kind of give him a pass. But Silva, he's kind of like, he was a career 154 guy. So I think he turned pro when he was 15. Now he's fought loads of guys, man. Angulo couldn't knock him out. He went down rounds with him. He fought Kama guys, fought fucking Pablo Cesar Cano, but he's got stopped by him in the first. Clotti, Moreno, he's fought decent guys, man. So he's a tough guy. Props to him, but I think Gomez needs to do a bit better.
Frankie Gomez is a good fighter because they keep giving him a second chance. Just everyone at the wild card, he's a Golden Boy fighter, isn't he?
Yep.
Everyone at Golden Boy and fucking everyone on HBO or Showtime, whatever, they keep giving him another chance, but how many chances do you want? Everyone knows that when you're fat, you're not as fast. Even if you hit anything, you don't feel the same kind of torque. It's literally as if you're slowed down because you're carrying more weight. No wonder he can't hurt the guy. He's too slow, he's too fat. And surely, it's probably the best thing that could happen to him, letting him fight at that weight. It's almost as if, okay, the team has just went, all right, fight at that weight. Get to see that your punches have no effect on the guy.
Yep.
So it's almost as if, I hope this is like his illusion, kind of, these bubbles being burst.
Kind of wake him up a bit.
Yeah, hopefully, just to show him, okay, I can't fucking compete at these higher weight classes. Maybe he's got a higher opinion of his power than what he actually has, but hopefully that fight has kind of just reminded him that, all right, you're a small guy. You can't really have the kind of same speed on your shots if you're overweight. So, hopefully he gets his act together, but man, someone needs to get him a fucking nutritionist.
Weight Watchers, man. Do it Danny Garcia style.
That's it. So if anybody is crying out for a fucking a fucking what's the guy's name? Memo Heredia. If anyone needs Memo Heredia, it's him.
It was actually funny as well. I don't know if you noticed it, but I don't think you saw that fight. But Roach turned up late. He was in like LA traffic, and Marvin was warming him up and put his wraps on. And I think Freddie turned up in like the second round, went straight to the corner, and after that he was there. But at least he turned up for it. Like Freddie sees something special in Gomez, because he even mentioned about it. He said, "Oh, I think he's like one of the best prospects. That's why I decided to work with him." But it's interesting because Abel Sanchez was at ringside, and he used to train Gomez, and Doug Fisher went over to him and spoke to him, and he said, "Oh, he talked about the Golovkin-Lemieux fight," and then he started to discuss Frankie Gomez, and he was like, Gomez he's a good guy, but he wasn't really putting in the effort that I required, so that's why we kind of parted ways, which I could see, because if the guy's not living their life, then why do you want to work with him? So I'm surprised kind of Freddie picked up the leftovers, but Freddie must see something special as well and thought maybe I can turn this kid around. But
yep.
We'll see. Alright, let's have a little break. Talk about the Predictions League. Ari's still in first, but he's in joint first now with Mo in 10. TBE Chef's in second. I'm in third. Animal Status in fourth. Got Lamarcus Malvo in fifth. El Terrible in sixth. Mun in seventh. Arizona Slim and Punch Drunk in joint eighth. Boss Up 03 in ninth. And Sean 7000 in 10th. And shout out to my girl Sarah Sasa, she's in 11th.
Yo, Cam, just a question about the Prediction League.
Go ahead.
A lot of people are asking when it's going to be reset.
January.
Alright, January. Okay, I'll be back in it in January then.
That's what you always say. You'll do it for 2 weeks, then you'll forget, and you're like, fuck it, I'll wait for it to reset.
You know what fucks me up? Because if I miss a prediction, I know it's going to fuck me up. And if I miss one prediction, my head drops, and I'm just like, you know what, man, fuck it, because I'm never going to catch up the guys who make every prediction. And you're my boy, but you always put in the midweek fights. The fucking Latin Fury fights and the fucking flyweight fights from Thailand and shit. And that just fucks me up.
That's why you got to box racket, man. Do your research.
I know it seems to work a lot of the time when I do it on the show, but I wouldn't want to do it in a fucking competition.
No, I try and be fair because I put a lot of UK fights in that are not the greatest. I try and balance it out because if it's a quiet weekend, I'll put lesser fights. But if it's a busy weekend with a lot of fights, like the one I'm going to do for next week, there's a decent card in Russia on November 4th. That's got about 4 or 5 fights in the Prediction League. And then the weekend's quite busy as well. So on those type of weekends, I'll just put the bigger fights and leave the smaller ones out of it. But like for this week, it's fucking pretty dead in the world of boxing. So there's fights in there that I wouldn't usually put in. I'm just trying to keep it, balanced a bit. But next I want to just give a shout to the people in the chat. We've got Nothing for Something, Barceleos, Wasif 1, Loma Usyk Klitschko, Beast Mode, BRD Hey, Nunez 83, Bill Bones 101, Marky Mark TMT, Tico, Kevlar, Nesmatic, Mr. Dermo, Steve Kim, Michael Live Dogs 24, Z334, Thundergatti, The Compa, Mate Matiko, PM versus J Butters, Leslie 333, Pinhead 360, Raphael 22, Luke in LA, Shamas 1000, Jason 268, Jack Captain, J Swede the A-side, NK Halfie, Casual Fan, Lucan, Batman Fury, Swasu, Local Mexican, and about 18 guests. Just going back to the Prediction League, yeah, we reset it 3 times a year, so it's January to April, and then May to end of August, and then September to December, so it's 3 seasons per year. Ari won the first one, Hamada won the second one, and the third one was won by Choppy Hover. And that's
Excellent.
about it. You want to talk about anything that you've seen or read this week?
Oh, I suppose we better talk about this Andre Ward carry on. You know, Andre Ward signed with Rock Nation. He's got 99 problems, but Rohan Murdoch ain't one. And there probably is 98 fighters ranked higher than Rohan Murdoch. Rohan Murdoch from that fighting hotbed of Australia. I've actually YouTubed Rohan Murdoch. I'll tell you what, man. On his highlights, he's not a bad fighter. But then again, the person who uploaded it was Annie Murdoch. It's probably his mum. He actually looks as if he's got a wee bit of power behind him, but you investigate him. The only name I can recognise on his resume is Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao. You might recognise him from fighting Mikael Kessler and Anthony Munden. But Manny Pacquiao is 39 years old. He's shot and he's shite. Rohan Murdoch has fought no one. He's a career super middleweight. And Andre Ward wants to take him up to 175 pounds in a similar sense. In a similar way that he brought up Paul Smith. So, I mean, what can you say? He's probably the best pound for pound fighter on the planet. It's pretty much obvious to anyone. I mean, I don't think anybody's got more skills than Andre Ward, but I think maybe Andre Ward kind of feels like everyone else is allowed an easy fight. Why can't I have a fucking easy fight? It's like he's sown his wild oats.
He's had his easy fight though. The fight against Smith was an easy fight.
Well, I said prior to the Paul Smith fight, if anyone's due an easy fight, it's him because he did go through the Super 6. He did take a couple of tough fights after that. He's been fighting tough opposition for a long fucking time, so I would give him the Paul Smith. It was a shocking fight, but I'll give him that. This fight, yeah, there's no excuses. Rohan Murdoch, his handle, his boxing name is No Mercy. You know, the Nevada State Athletic Commission must have thought that was French, No Mercy, because they didn't want it. And that's the right decision. I wish more boxing commissions would do that. It's about time. I mean, it's almost unprecedented that a guy of that magnitude, Andre Ward, would have a fight turned down. I can't really recall that in the past. If anyone in the chat's got an example, I would love one, but I can't recall a fighter of that magnitude having a fighter turned down. So maybe the penny's dropping with these commissions. Enough. I mean, how many guys do you want to see fucking ruined Rod Salka style? It's fucking. I guess at the end of the day, we all want a competition. We don't want to see a blowout. It may be a good highlight reel, a fucking Twitter vine. But it's after that fucking initial 30 seconds fascination with it, you'll be bored. You'll forget it quick. The thing that the boxing fan remembers is a good fight. It's about time these commissions done more of the things like that. What do you think, Cam?
I kind of agree with everything you said. I think there's a lot better names that Ward could maybe have chose to be his first fight at 175, or if he wants another catch weight somewhere in between. I think he's that good that he doesn't need tune-ups. I don't know if it's just arrogance, thinking these other guys are getting paid so much and they're not fighting anyone, so why should I, risk reward, why should I take a risk against someone decent when, other guys are getting paid a lot of money for fighting lower level opposition. So maybe that's some of it. Maybe it's just his personal arrogance. Maybe it's just he doesn't really want to box. Maybe he's just happy being, doing his job on HBO. Some people are like that. They get to a stage where, they've got the money. Boxing's not the biggest interest in his life. So I don't know. I've never been the biggest Ward fan as his personality wise. To box, he's not been the funnest guy to watch. He's fucking He's excellent at what he does. I just not a fan of that style. But I don't know. Not really got much to say about fucking Andre Ward. But shout, was it Wood? Someone sent me a voice note about, I think, Wood talking about Andre Ward. And I think it was on a boxing voice, man, and that was an excellent fucking point he was making.
What was he making?
He was just saying, you know, Ward wants all this props for fighting all these guys, and then fucking he's fighting like window cleaners and fucking bin men and fucking this and that, and then he asks why doesn't he get credit for it and shit. It's just, I'll send you the link if I find it on my phone. I think it sounded like Wood. I'm not sure if it was Wood, but it did sound like Wood.
To be honest, I've got a lot of time for Andre Ward in terms of his skill set, but like I called into the boxing voice, fucking name dropping again, but I called into the boxing voice last week as well, and I basically said, what's Andre Ward's best win? Cam, what is Andre Ward's best win?
As in terms of the biggest name or just excitement fight?
No, just the one that you gave him the most credit for.
I don't know. Probably the Kessler was decent back then.
Kessler or Froch?
Yeah, Kessler or Froch. I don't want to say the obvious Froch, but yeah, between them two.
You know, the thing is, I think Mikael Kessler, because everyone was picking Mikael Kessler beforehand. So in terms of like the underdog, I would say that Mikael Kessler was his best win. You know, people were expecting him to beat Froch, and he did. Even though I do think Froch is a better fighter than Mikael Kessler, but whatever, semantics. If he retired now, I don't think he would go into the Hall of Fame, because I don't know if Mikael Kessler is a Hall of Fame fighter. I do think Froch is a Hall of Fame fighter, but you know, even Hall of Fame, does Andre Ward really want to be a Hall of Fame fighter, or does he want to be an all-time great? Does he want to be a guy who's talked about when his career's over as being like one of the 50 best fighters of all time, because he's got that potential. And he's got the potential to be maybe top 20 best fighters who have ever lived. But right now his resume doesn't look like that. Right now his resume is Mikael Kessler and Carl Froch.
Yep.
Hey, can I ask you guys a question regarding that proposed fight that I'm sure you guys are talking about?
Go ahead.
Yep.
Was that for a fight to be at 175?
Yeah, it was, yeah. He was going to fight. And Rohan Murdoch is a career 168 fighter.
Right. Yeah, that's just...
Which isn't that bad, because it's not as if Andre Ward's a light heavyweight.
Yeah, okay. Fair. But still, I think... No, actually, you know what? I have a gripe with that statement, because if your whole point about getting acclimated to a certain weight class is that you're not ready for the top guys at that weight class, the only way you can really get ready for those guys if you actually fight someone who is a natural 175 pounder. You know what I mean? That makes absolutely no sense. It's like me saying that I want to fight a 140 pounder at welterweight so I can get acclimated at that weight division. It doesn't make sense.
But just to play devil's advocate, you know, you look at Floyd when he moved up to welterweight, he was fighting guys like Shramba Mitchell, who was a career 140, just to test the waters, you know, just to fight a smaller guy, just to see how he was comfortable at the weight. And then he would fight the bigger guys. Cotto, when he moved up to 154, he was fighting guys like Delvin Rodriguez, who was, I don't know if he was a career 147, but he certainly had fights at welterweight. You know, it's just something that the A sides do when they move up in weight. They fight a smaller guy. Just, you know, they're putting their fucking pinky toe in the hot water. Just testing it. So
you sure have a way of making statements sound a little bit better than they really are, because I understand your points, but I think Cotto and Floyd they're different than Ward because Ward doesn't have that luxury, in my opinion. And Ward isn't. He's not an A side. He's not a B side. He's a C side or a D side at best. He has no history of drawing attention to the sport when he fights, and because of that, he doesn't. I wouldn't grant him the same luxuries that I would Cotto and Floyd. Just fight a 175 pounder and get it over with. And one more thing that I don't understand is I honestly have no idea what Rock Nation Sports is doing. I'm pretty sure that they gave Ward a pretty hefty contract, and I'm sure he has brought them absolutely nothing, whether it's actual revenue or attention. So I really don't know what they're trying to do with boxing promotion, but that's a different story, I guess. But what are you going to say, Chu?
No, I was just going to play devil's advocate. You're saying he's a C side or a D side.
Yep.
In terms of like television ratings, I don't even know what his are. But in terms of bums on seats, you saw in the past that Andre Wardle sold out arenas. His last fight against fucking Paul Smith. I'm not saying it was a sellout, but he had a sizable crowd there.
You should try to look up the amount of people that showed up to the Ward versus Rodriguez fight in Ontario, California. Ward, he's not a draw, my friend. Nobody gives a shit about him when he fights, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it.
And it's funny, Ward. The word "ward" backwards is draw, which is ironic because he's not really.
He's not even close to being a draw.
But I do think when you're from a town like he's from Auckland, right?
Yeah.
It's not as if they're. I'm fucking making an ignorant statement right now, but it's not as if they're fucking got fucking elite sportsmen on their fucking doorstep every day.
Yeah.
So if he's ever gonna be a draw, it's gonna be in his hometown, in a similar sense that Terence Crawford is a draw in Omaha. But they've not marketed him right. That previous promoter, the one that died, what's his name?
Dan Goosen.
Dan Goosen.
Who's done a great job, man. He's done a fucking great job. And then,
you can't really say that. Why do you say that he was doing a great job?
Because he was filling out arenas. The Mikael Kessler fight was a sold-out arena.
Okay, but that was in Oakland, and like you just mentioned, his last fight against Paul Smith, it drew decent numbers in terms of asses on seats, and that was also in Oakland. You see the common theme here? If it's in Oakland, it's going to do decently well because he's from Oakland, but if you take Andre Ward out of that little bubble, he's not going to draw no one.
Another thing, he's fighting in Ontario, California. Whereabouts is that from Auckland?
It's in Southern California.
So, hundreds of miles away? It's a big fucking state.
Yeah, it's about 250, 300 miles away. But
fuck me, man. I mean,
all I'm saying is that Ward, the only way that you can make him even somewhat of a decent draw is if you force him to fight only in the city of Oakland and in that area.
Yeah.
And he's different because his style is so ugly to watch to begin with, and he's so unfriendly when it comes to crowd-pleasing fighters that no matter how genius of a marketer you are, you're not going to let him be a draw in the sport. It's just not possible with his style.
You would have to be a massive Andre Ward fan to do a 600-mile round trip in a car just to watch him fight.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, if it's between, like, I don't know, going to Guantanamo or having to fly 1,000 miles to watch him fight, I'd rather go to Guantanamo.
At least you might get better music than they play in between the rounds.
Yeah, which is no music at all, right?
Nah, the Rock Nation, they've got fucking Jay-Z / Linkin Park in between it. Man, that's so popular at fucking boxing shows nowadays, man. I'm sure Golovkin was coming out to that shit fucking last week.
Yeah, but
that shitty Linkin Park Jay-Z song.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was probably part of his Apple commercial stipulation, though, too. So he was forced to listen to that stuff. But yeah, how did you guys get to the Ward subject?
We just mentioned it because it was a biggish news in a quiet week of boxing news, I guess.
Very, very, very quiet. I would have to agree. There's not much going on in the sport, unfortunately, from now until Canelo versus Cotto, right?
Yeah, even this week's pretty quiet. I mentioned earlier there's a decent card in Russia on the 4th. Who's feeling who in Liverpool on the 7th?
Wait, I'm sorry, what was that? You said who's feeling who?
Who's feeling who?
Oh, I thought you were honestly saying who is feeling who, as if like you were asking me who's fighting. But I don't know.
But on the same night, we got Bradley and Rios as well.
Oh, interesting. That's this weekend?
No, that's the weekend after the 7th.
I see.
But that's another fight that me and Chu kind of disagree on, because I'm saying that Rios is shot and Chu's saying that he's not.
Yeah, but Chu, you're basing that off the Alvarado fight, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm also, this isn't going to help my argument, but I'm also basing that on the words of his trainer, who's saying that Rios is looking like the best ever Rios. Of course, his trainer isn't biased.
Yeah, his trainer. Yeah, exactly. His trainer's going to say that.
But I thought Rios has had a lot of time to acclimatise to the weight. You know what I'm saying? I'm always a little bit.
Is that a word?
What?
Acclimatize?
Acclimatise, yeah.
Isn't it acclimate?
No, acclimatise is the word, yeah.
Okay.
If you go up a mountain, you acclimatise to it.
Okay. All right, carry on.
Yeah, just anyway, the point I'm trying to make is Timothy Bradley, I think he's making a mistake changing trainers and then going into a big fight against a knockout puncher, especially when he's got a tendency to get hit.
Knockout puncher, come on, bro. Rios is not a knockout puncher.
I believe he is.
He was at the lower weights, but not here.
He
Even at the lower
destroyed
weights.
Alvarado.
Fucking Alvarado, Chew. Come on, man. That guy looked like a fucking walking dead cast member on the weigh-ins of that fight.
Listen, I'm not here. You're changing the argument. I'm not here to fucking defend Alvarado.
No, I understand. I'm not changing the argument at all. I'm saying that Alvarado was in the worst shape of his fucking life in that fight, and he was clearly weight drained, and that clearly led to the way that he got absolutely blitzed by Rios on that night.
I've always said that when a fight begins is when you sign the contract. If Alvarado's not in shape to give Rios a good fight, that's not fucking Rios' fault.
Of course it's not. Of course it's not his fault.
Alvarado's already fucking beat Rios, so you can't then take the win away from Rios.
Of course you can.
You can't give him credit for beating up a man in the street, basically. Sorry. Hello, everyone.
No, hey Leon, how's it going, man?
Yeah.
Let's just finish. Let me just finish this argument, and we'll let you jump right in, my friend.
Okay.
All I'm trying to say is that, of course you can criticize a guy for not training properly. Like we can't take that away necessarily from Rios, I guess, as a fighter, but it can certainly change the way we view that fight in a nutshell. If all you're doing is doing cocaine and partying and not training properly, then how are we supposed to give a fighter credit for beating a fighter who clearly wasn't trained properly leading up to that fight?
And driving SUVs into lakes.
A fucking lakes. Exactly.
I see what you're saying, but it doesn't really matter. In 10 years' time, everyone's just going to look at the fucking box rec and it's going to say Rios, TKO, even KO Alvarado.
Yeah, but we don't have to use that perspective 10 years down the line. We're looking at it right now, and it's fresh in our memory, so we can't say this from 10 years from now because we have it right, and this isn't far from our distant memory. We understand the circumstances that led to that certain situation, so we don't have to look at it from 10 years down the road.
So why didn't Alvarado train like he should have? I personally think it was because he knew he was going to lose. He already had the fucking... Rios had already fucked him up. So that's a win. It's not just a physical win, it's a mental win. He's got him beat before he even stepped in the ring.
You sound like a fucking life coach right now, man.
But it's true. It's true. Why would you break the habit of fucking 30-odd fights in your fucking career biggest payday in your home fucking town? To not train, to take drugs, to put in a pathetic performance. And it was a pathetic performance, but...
Yes, but you're talking about the why.
Huh?
You're talking about the why, Chu. Why did he do this? Why did he do that? I don't know. Alvarado's a fucking dumbass. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he just had a certain notion on one night to do something incredibly stupid, but I don't think that's what me and Cam are trying to say. We're just saying that he did these certain things, and he was obviously the poorest he's ever been in that fight, and thus I can't really take too much away from that performance because Rios was fighting the absolute worst version of Alvarado, and I think Alvarado on that night was a fucking D-level fighter. I think he was absolute shit that night.
No,
He
Chew.
was terrible.
Totally fucking disagree.
Chew.
Can I just quickly say?
Yes.
No.
Please
Let me say
chime in.
something.
Oh, no.
Chew.
Ken,
Rios, after the second fight with Rios, Alvarado went in a downward spiral. He fought Provodnikov, got destroyed. He fought Marquez and lost. And then, since then, he's coming off back-to-back losses and he's having all these personal problems. You can't really give fucking Rios props for knocking him out.
Oh, yeah, but you can't say he's shot, Cam. You said he was shot. How can you say he's shot after fucking knocking a guy out?
Yeah, but who did he knock out, though?
Yeah, but you can't say he's shot.
No,
On the back of that.
no, but Rios looks... He doesn't look good at 47, man. He looks flabby. Like he was...
I totally disagree. I think he looks fucking great.
He was losing.
Unbelievable.
He was losing to Chavez before Chavez got disqualified.
That wasn't a good fight, man.
The key word in your statement there, Cam, is losing. Losing the fight. He didn't lose the fight. The
Fair
fight was
enough.
not lost.
No, you're right. You're right there,
And it
but
was a close fight. I can remember watching that Chavez fight, and you could have scored it either way. And Diego Chavez is no bum.
I'll give you that. But I don't agree with you about saying that he's in good shape at 47.
I think at the beginning of his welterweight campaign, he looked like a fleshy, blown up 135 guy. But now he's had plenty of time to acclimatise to the weight. He looks good, I've mentioned Ellie Setback before. I'm watching these fucking videos and shit. To me, he looks trim. He looks fit. He's got that fucking Brandon Rios hunger in his eyes. The thing with Brandon Rios is he's going to get fucking schooled for about 10 rounds. And then he's going to land a shot on Timothy Brandley. Now, the key point I'm trying to make is it was going to be a fucking beating, but it only needs one punch. Because I think Bradley's chin is a bit shaky at the moment. And if fucking Jesse Vargas can rock you, then Brandon Rios can certainly rock you. However you feel about his power at welterweight, if Rios catches him like Jesse Vargas catches him, then I think Bradley can go.
Okay, so just right now, Chew, what's your official prediction for the fight? Obviously, you can change it before the fight.
I'm picking Bradley. I'm picking Bradley wide UD.
Okay.
But I'm hiding my bet slightly. I mean, it's certainly not out of the possibility that Rios could knock him out. Like, there's no way that Rios is going to get a decision. No way. Absolutely not. But I do think with the way that Bradley fights, I think he's kind of been burning the candles a bit at both ends.
Okay.
So, and he's not... Everybody's like saying this... I'm going to let Leon come in a second, but Bradley doesn't live the life anymore. He used to, but he balloons up in weight a lot between all his recent fights. He balloons up, then he comes down. That's going to catch up to him, man.
No,
I don't know if it's going to be in this fight, but it's going to catch up to him eventually. He's a knockout waiting to happen.
I agree about the weight situation. Quickly before we get Leon on, do you think we'll see much improvement of Bradley under Atlas?
Me?
Yeah, you.
I'm trying, Ted Atlas has been so long out the game. I mean, he's had Povetkin, and
that's the thing for me. Like, Atlas is known for heavyweights. He's not really known for lower weight guys.
I mean, he could maybe give. He's cute with his phrases. You know what I mean? When he talks on ESPN, it's like put water in the well. Put water in the basement and all that kind of shit. I think. I wonder how much substance is in there. You know what I mean? Can it make a strategy out of it? And it's almost like rust. How long has it been since he's had a kind of elite guy at that weight class?
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like rust. Can he acclimatise to that? He might be out of his depth, I think.
I think we need to add acclimatise to Chew Bingo.
That's my favourite word this week.
I like when you say
Here, man.
I like when you say trying to put lipstick on a pig. That's my favourite.
That's another favourite.
All right, let's get Leon on. What's happening, Leon?
How you doing, guys? You all right?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. That was... I'm shocked at Chu and his Brandon Rios support.
Oh, we'll leave that for another day before the fight happens. But
Can I just quickly say, though, he's fought 3 times at 147. He lost wide to Pacquiao, got disqualification against Chavez, and beat up a crackhead. So...
Can I just that? Okay, Pacquiao, all-time great. Chavez, close fight, good fighter. And he fucking destroyed Alvarado. I mean, it's not bad.
It's not exactly something that's going to keep Timothy Bradley awake at night, though, is it?
I'm pretty sure fucking Brandon Rios isn't watching the Jesse Vargas fight with fucking clockwork orange matchsticks between his eyes.
Yeah, anyway. He's
It's
talking
semantics.
about ballooning up in weight. He looks fat as fuck in most videos I see.
It's a great styles matchup. Pressure fighter, boxer.
I'm actually looking forward to this fight, but maybe because the rest of the schedule for between now and the end of the year is pretty weak, apart from Cotto Canelo and Fury Klitschko.
Yeah, that Rios Bradley fight really is just 2 guys who are deteriorating. So I feel like the counter argument is like, you know, Rios is crap, yeah, but Bradley is even more crap. Like that's the general thread of that argument. So that's a pretty depressing fight, actually, in my opinion.
It just shows what's happened to that welterweight division since Heyman's got involved. That they're forced to make this fight and trying to sell it to us as a showstopper.
So you don't think this fight is close?
I think it's close, but it's because both guys they're not very good anymore.
It shouldn't.
How can you say that?
It shouldn't be close.
I don't think Bradley's that good anymore, True.
Yeah, if Bradley had anything left in the tank, he would destroy him. Not destroy him, but beat him easily over 12 rounds. But if it's a close fight, then Bradley's deteriorated badly.
How can you say Bradley's not that good anymore? I mean,
I'm not saying that. I'm saying if he doesn't win this fight easily, he's deteriorated badly.
I think he wins easy. I think this is a one-sided fight.
Well, I think Rios is he's done nothing at welterweight to deserve such high praise, too.
But the thing is that Jesse Vargas was catching Bradley. And I know that's not much to hold, you know, my faith in Rios, I guess. But you don't think Rios, just by virtue of the fact that he always comes forward, you don't think he's going to clip Bradley at some point in the fight and get him in danger?
Yeah, because Bradley slipped.
Yeah, then it should be a pretty close fight then, right?
You know what? I don't know if it's like a physical slippage, but if you watch the Jesse Vargas fight, he was just going power shots like the first 5 rounds, just power, and it's naive because he's not got the power like that. But it was entertaining for the fans. What I'm trying to say is, I don't think it's a physical slippage. I think it's just a choice. He could go out there and stink the place out if he wants to, but he's not that cut out. He's not from that cloth mentality-wise. He wants to put on a show. And that'll be his downfall, I think, because if he does that against Rios, he could get knocked out.
No, I think it's a clear physical slippage, though, because if you watch the way that he mixed in boxing with the way he used to, be aggressive, even the Provodnikov fight when he got clipped, obviously numerous times, I still felt that he was a lot more concise and a lot more sharper and a lot more sharp with his pivots, and especially that Marquez. Tim was incredible against Marquez in that fight from a boxing perspective. And I remember the Chavez fight and the Vargas fight, and I see a pretty sloppy guy, I think, in Bradley. I feel like even when Bradley is trying to outbox his fighters, he still gets clipped.
That's Bradley's best win, I think, that Marquez win.
That's an incredible win.
Yeah,
the way that he
him.
did it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Best performance.
He outclassed Marquez that fight.
And that's not easy. No, it's not easy to do.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So it's unfortunate, right? Because Tim is he's accomplished a lot in his career, but I've never been the biggest Tim advocate just because I don't really know what his defining moment in his career is other than that Marquez fight. But I'm a hater, so what do I know?
I say physical slippage in terms of his chin, not in terms of his speed. I think he's slowed down a little bit, but I still think he's still smart enough up there uh, to really. His boxing IQ is fucking underrated. And like you guys said, the Marquez win is a fucking tremendous win. But I mean, it's really stupid. You're throwing away the guy who set up the game plan for that Marquez win, Diaz. Uh, I don't think you need a game plan to beat Rios, but just I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that. This guy's fucking brought you to rags to riches, and you're kind of just throwing him away and saying nasty shit about him. I think that's just fucking despicable, man.
Did you hear how he did it as well? He did it on voicemail.
Yeah, that's terrible, man. That's fucking terrible. I mean, he's went from. I've had a kind of love-hate relationship with Tim Bradley, but he's went from being a kind of favourite of mine to being a bit of a cunt, to be honest. And it would be karma if he got knocked out.
Well, he's not going to. Not by a shot, Rios. All right, let's move on. Leon, anything you want to talk about?
How depressing was that Sky card?
That was more than depressing.
That just summed up this entire year in a nutshell for me. We just have, how many 50-50 fights have we had this year?
Not many.
You count them on two hands. Probably might be able to get them on one hand. It's depressing.
You'll get them on one foot if you're Danny Garcia.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, it wasn't. It was horrible. And then what's his name, Crawford. That was another one-sided fight as well. So I don't know. It was a bad weekend.
What are your thoughts about the Triple G pay-per-view numbers and Canelo saying that he wants to fight at catch weight in a couple
care
of
about
years?
The pay-per-view numbers. Personally, doesn't bother me, doesn't affect anything for me really. It is what it is. And Canelo, well, he's just being groomed to be another diva, isn't he? By the look of things.
That's what happens. It's like what Lim said earlier. When they reach a certain point, the diva button gets pressed and start making demands and sounding like bitches.
I just think, for the good of the sport, catch weights should almost be done away with.
The only time catch weights are decent is, if you're a guy and you want to kind of go up to the next weight class, but you just want to test the water a bit, fine.
Maybe that's what. If we still hold any value in belts or whatever they mean, or supposed championship fights, there should be no catch weights involving any belt. Especially with so many. If we're going to save belts, if we're going to just fuck them off, then so be it. We can just fight at whatever weight we want to fight at. But if we're going to hold any value in weight classes and belts,
right,
then we're just shitting all that. This sport's being shit on by the people who are actually running it. So, I mean, what hope have we got, really? Yeah. Sorry to sound depressing. It's just fucking...
No, it's true.
Miserable weekend, and it hasn't made me feel any more positive about the sport.
Yeah, miserable as in just the fights?
The fights, the fans, the fucking everyone involved in the whole fucking thing.
Hey, but at least you got church on Sunday though, Leon.
Yeah, that will help. I was just like trying to get my mate. It was like, oh, why are you so into boxing? I was like, well, go and have a listen to a few podcasts and all that stuff. And he just like came back and just like, these people are morons. I just don't want to listen to homophobic, racist nonsense. I don't understand how you fucking bear it. I just thought it was interesting. That's from a casual. It's just like, why? His point was like, why would I be involved in this sport?
Yeah, honestly, guys, the biggest reason that I keep watching boxing is, I think, just to be on the show. It's just a chat with you guys. So I sound like a complete fucking moron when I'm on every. No, it's true. I mean, I don't watch as much boxing as I used to, but I think the reason why I still watch fights like Crawford versus Dierry Jean at least is just so that I have something to talk about on Monday. It's not necessarily for the fight themselves. It's just to have some kind of common thread of conversation with you guys.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I love you guys. That's what I'm trying to say.
We
I
love
still
you
love.
back,
I
man.
still love fights. I'm just sick. I'm just getting bored of all the other stuff surrounding it. I just want good fights.
Boxing is chaos. There's no structure. There's no set weight divisions. No belts. Anybody can have a belt. Fight at any weight class you want. It's like Burger King. Have it your way. But that's what I love boxing. I'll tell you why. Because it's a reflection of life. All this fucking greed and fucking chaos and corruption and sneaky backhanded promoters fucking slipping a brown fucking paper bag under the table to the fucking promotion, to the fucking organisations to get their fighter up the ranks. All this kind of slimy shit. That's life. That's life. The way boxing is life outside the ring and inside the ring. It's like The Wire. You ever seen the TV show The Wire? It fucking hits you in so many levels, so many layers. And it's just like boxing, because sometimes in boxing the best guy doesn't win. Sometimes in boxing the best fighter doesn't get the glory. Look at Rigondeaux. There's so many fucking fighters you can name who don't get the fucking glory. That is life. It's almost as if God is telling you in a sport that this is the fucking human existence.
Oh my god, that was fucking deep, Drew.
And that's why I fucking love boxing, because there's no truer thing in life than the sport and all its fucking 360 composition.
Shout to my boy TBE Chef in the chat. He said, "Welcome to the layer cake, son." People that have seen the movie The Layer Cake will understand that reference.
Great movie. I just saw it this past weekend.
Oh, you never seen it before?
No, I watched it because I'm a big Daniel Craig fan. So
that's a classic, man. I love that movie.
I know. It was fantastic.
Right.
Hey, one more thing. A guy named Matematica in the chat says these guys are depressing as fuck.
Sorry, that's probably my fault, but it's fucking true, man. If you sat through, if you like me wasted your Saturday evening watching that fucking card, I mean, I don't.
Which one?
The one in the Sky one. It's just, I honestly caught myself like, what am I doing with my fucking time watching this? I'm just addicted because I love the sport, and I never want to miss a card because you never know when you might miss the fight of the year. And I don't care what anyone says, watching it the next morning is not the same.
Nah, it's not. You want to watch it when it's live, innit?
And that's why I watch it all, because you just never know when you might get a war.
Hey, MV Chew, a guy named Court Music in the chat just said Chew just went in. And I wanted to bring that up because Court Music looks like if Lucas Matisse ever joined a reggae band, that's what he would look like.
Nah, shout out to my boy Court Music, man. He's good people.
Fucking Court Music always, you're not on Twitter, Dan, but Court Music always fucking retweeting us and shit, so shout out to him.
Yeah, man.
Good shit.
And if he wants to join a reggae band, let him.
Hey, I wouldn't want to fuck with Lucas Matisse, whether he's in a reggae band or not. So shout out to Court Music.
All right. Anything else for us, Leon?
No. Just depressing.
You just came on to just spread a bit of salt and a bit of depression.
Yeah, just a little bit of depression. I felt it hard this weekend. It was low times.
We should get sponsored by one of the leading anti-depression medication pills. That should be our main sponsor. We could lead with that every single show.
Brought to you by Prozac. A pill a day keeps the fucking Al Heyman fighters at bay.
All right, Chew, Liam, you guys got anything else, or should we get out of here?
Is there no fights next weekend?
Not really. Tony Thompson versus Malik Scott on Friday.
Oh shit!
Alcine versus Charlo on Saturday. So basically, another depressing weekend for you.
Keep the salt coming, Leon.
Oh man,
that's a horrendous fight, isn't it?
Let's fight.
Tony Thompson versus Malik Scott. I mean, that's the dregs.
Even Charlo versus Alcine's a terrible fight.
Oh, that is the dregs.
They'll be taking bets on who's going to take the dive first.
Hey, I got Malik Scott. If you ever want to bet on someone taking a dive, Malik Scott should be your number one option. I still remember that Deontay fight. That was the most incredible dive I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, yeah. The air shot that knocked him out.
Chu remembers that wink.
Yeah, I definitely saw that wink. I mean, you've heard of the Muhammad Ali's fucking Sonny Liston phantom shot. That was a poltergeist shot. That was the full ghost. That was a ghostly punch.
So you've probably already been over this, but quickly, so is Ward off that card now because they wouldn't let him fight a bum?
I think they're still looking for another opponent.
Paul Smith too.
Why not?
Yeah, fuck it. I'm happy to just watch that again.
Yo, quickly, Leon, have you seen this Russia card on Wednesday, November 4th?
The Povetkin card.
Yeah, we got Povetkin versus Wak, Lebedev versus Coyote, my new favourite fighter, Koneko versus Troy Yovansky, Chagayev's fighting Ola Afolabi, and Kudryshev's fighting some dude as well. For a Wednesday, middle of the day card, that's pretty decent, man.
That's good. When's that? This coming Wednesday? Or week on Wednesday?
Week on Wednesday.
Oh, I like that. Those Russian cards have been quite good this year, actually, to be fair.
No, they haven't. That's a decent card, man. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I love that little Argentinian as well.
Yep.
Just I don't know if you guys watched the Amateur World Championships, but did you?
No.
Yeah, I watched some of it.
Why?
No, just no Americans mid on. No
Okay.
offense to American listeners, of course. I'm just saying.
Of course, no offense.
But
right?
their amateur system's shot to shit, isn't it, over there?
Yeah.
They get no funding, and you can't survive in that amateur boxing without funding. I mean, all those Eastern European countries, they're getting so much money pumped into them.
But I mean, no, that's the Cubans. I mean,
that's a way of life, isn't it?
That's an army. That's a regiment.
Way of life.
Exactly. And plus, who really cares, though? I mean, I don't put that much stock into the amateurs to begin with, so that doesn't really mean anything to me.
No, you still get talent coming out of there, though.
No, absolutely you do. But all I'm saying is that the style of fighting in amateurs is so much different than professional ranks.
So Dan, I
don't put much stock into that.
I see your shot. I see your shot against me. I see it. So okay, the NFL will just do away with the college system.
They're two completely different things because the college system
Why
employs the exact same rules as the NFL does. So it's a more direct transition from one entity to the next.
See this myth that amateur boxing is completely different to professional boxing.
Of course it's different.
It's in the name. It's amateur. You get paid for one. You don't get paid for the other. It's the same fucking thing.
Of course it's not the same thing. They just recently employed without the headgear, right? So that in and of itself.
So now it's the same thing.
Difference. Yeah, now it's the same thing, but it's too early to tell. It's not enough time for these nations to transition in this new style.
See if you drive a car with a helmet on.
Well, hold on. Let me just make one more point. The reason why I bring that up and say that there's not enough time to transition is that because throughout the history of amateur boxing, you use headgear, right? And it's all on a count system, first of all. Though that's two major differences in the structure of how the two sports are judged and regulated, right? It's a point system and a scoring system that's based upon how a judges evaluates a certain fighter. Amateurs, it's strictly on the number of times you hit your opponent. Those are two completely different ways of scoring a fight. And thus, because of that difference in system, you fight in entirely different manners.
You know, Beast Mode in the chat. Beast Mode comes to me in my time in aid. All good amateurs. DeGale, Khan, Ward, Golovkin, Kovalev. Who else am I missing? There's more. Rigondeaux.
That's a different argument, though. That's just based simple correlation. If you're a standout in the amateur, yes, you're likely going to be a good professional because you're a naturally talented fighter. All I'm trying to say is that the two aren't necessarily always related with one another.
Yeah,
they're based on different systems.
There's countless tales of good amateurs coming up and getting knocked out inside 8 or 9.
Exactly. Like I could, just as you guys can mention all these fantastic professional fighters that were great amateurs, like Leon mentioned, I could just bring the exact opposite statistic and mention these guys who won gold medals and who were fucking shit in the professionals. They're just two different things.
The guys at the top of the sport, Vladimir Klitschko, Rigondeaux, all these guys, are all fucking good amateurs. I mean, of course you've got your fucking outliers like your fucking Liverpudlian heavyweight David Price. Great amateur, shit professional. Another Audley Harrison, another example. That Russian guy who got knocked out by fucking Andy Lee, another example. But that doesn't matter. The guys at the top are still fucking amateurs, or they were amateurs.
But most boxers had amateur careers, so it's a kind of non-argument, isn't it?
But the best,
most of them
well, that's another good point, Leon. The best professional boxers are the ones who have had 200 fights, 300 fights. Amateurs.
Or maybe the general scope of the argument should be limited to, in terms of Americans who obviously don't perform that well in the amateurs, perhaps they prioritize teaching a pro-level style of fighting at a much earlier age, which isn't always conducive to success in the amateurs. Because they're two entirely different things, Drew. I mean, literally, the amateurs are based on how many times you touch your opponent. They don't take into account the level of impact that each punch has. And that's the whole point of professional fighting. That's a difference in principle right there.
I think you're taking one aspect of it and then just saying the sport is completely different.
I'm taking one aspect, which is the most important aspect in how you judge a fight. So that difference is pretty critical, in my opinion.
It's a big difference. Don't get me
Huge
wrong, but
difference.
No, but that doesn't mean you can say it's completely different. It's somewhere, fucking the amateurs is like a place where you learn. It's what gets you ready for the professionals, just like the college system is for the NFL, just like the underage groups in soccer is. It's a place where you learn. You go learn your trade, and then you're ready, and it's like an evolution. But to say it's completely different is wrong. That's why you get guys like Rigondeaux with 300 amateur fights or whatever, Lomachenko, 300 fights. They're fucking fighting for world titles in 2 or 3 professional fights. How is that possible if they're just fucking completely different sports?
Well, first of all, I can easily just say that Chinese guy, Xing Jingming or whatever his name is, he fought 300 amateur fights, and he's a fucking terrible professional.
But that's because he can't punch and he can't take a punch.
But he succeeded in the amateurs.
Yeah, because
he was a 2-time gold medalist, true.
Knockouts aren't as important in the amateurs.
So it's slightly different then.
Listen, yeah, but it's not a completely different sport.
And look, I'm not hating on the amateurs because the Americans, suck at it or they don't set it up properly. That's not it at all. I don't like the amateur style as it is. I don't like watching amateur style fighting at all because again, the point system, the way they score fights is just absolute bullshit, man. It's fucking it's hogwash. I don't want to watch that garbage.
They've changed it. They've changed it back to the 10-point system now.
Okay, then if that's the way it is, then I guess I'm all on board. But even then, what kind of what ounce gloves do they use?
Yeah, they're probably still using the 16.
But nonetheless, no, I mean you're right. But again, that's just being good at the amateurs. I mean, that obviously means you have good boxing skills. I mean, because like you mentioned, they're both boxing. I get that, but of course, anyone who's very good at one thing is naturally going to be better, at the next profession or the next step of that profession. But to me, it's just amateur boxing and boxing. There's just a huge rift in terms of other sports and their natural progression from one level to the next. It's just they're almost different sports in my opinion. But obviously you disagree. But this conversation can go on forever.
So
yeah, no, but Wasif one says that amateur boxing is the foundation to the pro game, and I agree with that. But let me just say that I don't think it's essential. I still feel like you can get the basic foundation of boxing without having to go to the amateurs.
Like most of Mexico do.
And the thing is, I'm not even like butthurt about the U.S. amateur system because I don't know what the amateur system even looks like right now. I don't follow it at all. So how can I be, butthurt about it if I don't even know what the situation's like?
to me, I just, I'll come back around. It's inevitable. A country that size will eventually get its act together. But why don't they just fucking take a trip over to Russia take a trip over to Kazakhstan, see how they're doing it, which is probably just the same way as the Americans were doing it 40 years ago. But you don't even save the fucking airplane money. Just put on a fucking videotape.
Yeah, Jack Captain actually brings up a good
Talk to an
point.
old trainer.
How did Errol Spence do in the amateurs?
Okay.
I'm curious. I'm just curious.
Okay. Average.
Okay.
He wasn't average. He fucking travelled the world with American team.
Yeah, but he didn't win.
What does that
didn't
mean?
Win much.
He traveled the world, so he's automatically good. What does that mean?
He didn't medal, did he?
He must have been a good amateur. Look how he's doing in the program.
Yeah, but that's a flawed argument.
point is,
You're assuming something.
No, you guys are contradicting your own argument.
How?
Well, a guy who's good in the pros was an average amateur. I think we're making our point.
No, he was a good amateur, and he's a good professional. But you guys are saying that the pro game and the amateur game is so different. Well, if it's so different, why isn't he a fucking bad professional?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what level of amateur he was, but clearly you were mentioning these guys like Rigondao and Lomachenko as these guys who are obviously gold medal winners or at least some kind of medal winner and who had these 200, 300 level fights. And I think what me and Leon are trying to say is that, here's someone who isn't as heralded, but in my opinion, at least, I feel like he's on the same level as both of those fighters, or he will be one day, because obviously he hasn't had many fights. But all I'm saying is that it's not a necessary condition to go to the amateurs. I feel like maybe the U.S. just have different priorities. Maybe the way they train, maybe the system of or the fighting style that they employ is different than other countries, and maybe that it's not really necessary to do the amateur way. That's just my opinion.
Interesting. Beastmo just pointed out that Kovalev didn't medal at all. And he's got to be one of the best fighters on the planet, hasn't he?
And yeah, just look at his style. And I think that's a perfect example. He's the type of guy, obviously he doesn't have much of an amateur style. I'm not saying he's a bad boxer. Kovalev's a fine boxer. But he's a guy who goes in there to kill.
Listen, we could do this all night. You've mentioned Kovalev. I could mention Klitschko.
No, but I think our point generally stands because yours, at least from the way I understand it, is you're trying to make amateur boxing as some critical piece of learning that's absolutely essential to every single fighter, whereas I'm trying to say it's not. I'm not saying that it's not important. I'm just saying that it's not required.
It's an interesting question, when you think of the all-time greats, even the fucking great fighters today, how many of them were great amateurs? I'd love someone to figure it out.
Mexican fighters.
What about them? Canelo. I mean,
they don't have amateur backgrounds.
Man, see, with the exception. All right, okay, I could name.
That's a huge boxing nation, isn't it? Huge boxing nation.
Let me see something, right? Marco Antonio Barrera, Morales, Eric Morales, Salvador Sanchez, Julio Cesar Chavez. I'm not going to count Canelo because he's not there yet. There's like 8 or 9 names I can name off the top of my head that were kind of brought up with that fucking loads of bummy fights as a professional, and that's how they learned. Tom Pro at 16, and that's how they learned. But man, they still get outskilled. You know what I mean? They still got outskilled.
Yeah, and again, I know people are going to hate
a fucking really good fighter.
People are going to hate me for saying this, and this just extends the conversation even more. But perhaps if they didn't learn that style of fighting, they wouldn't have the advantages that they're so known for.
Such as?
Just that aggressiveness. A large flaw that amateurs often have is that they don't have enough. They don't have enough They don't have inside fighting. They don't have enough aggression. So they kind of just go through the pro ranks without really gaining any kind of noticeability or any kind of light, because they don't fight in the way that pro fighters are expected to fight. I mean, it goes both ways.
This is a black hole. We're talking generalizations. Floyd Mayweather, great amateur, great inside game. Andre Ward, great amateur, great inside game. Every fighter's different.
You're taking away from our point about the about the Mexican fighters and their style of fighting. But oh well.
Okay, just my final point in this.
Uh-huh.
Boxing isn't as popular in America as it once was. the most popular fighters used to be the Olympians. Oscar De La Hoya, Evander Holyfield, the list goes on, Sugar Ray Leonard. They don't put as much stock into it as they used to. Such as, Andre Ward was a gold medalist. He's not that popular. I just think if they took more care into their amateur system and got it good again, by the time the Olympics come round, they could maybe create some stars, you know what I mean? The Olympics get watched by a lot bigger audience than watches fucking boxing on a daily basis, so I just think they're kind of missing out on something there, a potential sales market.
You're saying that. I'd love to see what the viewing figures are for boxing at the Olympics. Just because lots of people watch the Olympics doesn't mean lots of people watch boxing at the Olympics.
All right, let's move on. No, I'm jumping in. Black hole.
No, wait, Cam, kill it.
The last thing. What you just mentioned, too, is such a interesting academic type of question, because you're saying that if you invest more in the Olympic system, perhaps boxing in general, or at least boxing in the United States, would be more popular. But I could equally just to say that maybe boxing in the U.S. public is what's actually driving this lack of interest in the Olympics. So it's a different cause and effect.
Okay. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Okay, fair point. It's pretty much been the fucking moral of this argument, so.
Exactly. Yeah, Cam's about to fucking commit suicide if we keep talking about this bullshit. I'm sorry, Cam. I didn't start it. It was all Chew. So.
Worst segment ever.
Blame him.
People in the chat are hilarious, man.
We're
we're
loving it.
Just want to get to Segura, who's on the line. Hey there, Segura. Hope you're not falling asleep.
What's going on, boys? No, I just had one more thing to add to that argument. No, I'm just kidding. But to tell you the truth, I'm an example of an American that was like scared away from boxing for years. Like, say I'm just throwing on ESPN. That was the only exposure I had to boxing, and I'd put it on, watch it for 5 minutes, and be like, these guys suck, because ESPN was putting on shit fights, and I mean that probably has driven away casuals for a long time. But I mean that's not really what I was calling for. But do you see what I'm saying? Like Olympic boxing, nobody really gives a shit about a specific sport. As Americans, we just want to know like who's the big guy, like Michael Phelps. Oh, he's won like 8 gold medals. Like that's the guy we're watching. Now we're watching Usain Bolt. It doesn't even have to be an American, really. It's just who's the guy.
Who's the star?
I mean, yeah. But anyway, I've thought about this comparison for a while, and I hesitate to do it because they're both like African American fighters, and I felt like, am I just comparing them because that's the correlation that they have? But it's really different from that. So that's why I'm gonna do it. But I'm look at Broner and Terence Crawford and the similarities that they have, but then how different they are. Like they're both backed by promotional outfits. They're both from the Midwest, both from from the slums, so to speak, or that's what they say. But then you look at one guy and look at the other, and just Terence Crawford is just like, he's such a stud. He's such a bad motherfucker, and he's so understated. People call him boring, but like as a person, I think he's just not an asshole. Just because he's not an asshole doesn't mean that he's a boring guy. And it's like you got Broner, like he comes in, he's dancing, he's talking shit, saying racist shit, and I feel like the cream rises to the top. And Crawford's he's getting his due. I don't know what you guys have talked about the fight, but I'm sure that you were impressed. Am I right?
You know what? I was actually more impressed with his past fight, Segura. I felt like he should have taken Dierry Jean out there, or he should have taken him out earlier. Just because I think Jean is like a C-level fighter, but I've always been high on Crawford. I just want to see him fight against like a top-level guy. I mean, what do you think his resume has been like? Do you feel like it's worthy of him fighting a guy like Pacquiao?
I think the Pacquiao fight has to happen. It makes too much sense because, I mean, the top rank has to feed itself. It wouldn't make sense to feed him to Khan because that would just be giving the PBC fighter, recognition. So I think it has to happen. I mean, he deserves it just based on circumstance. But I am kind of concerned, like, what would happen? Is Pacquiao just gonna like kind of be pushed out the door? Like, oh shit, he's old and he gets worked, or are we gonna realize that Terence Crawford isn't like an elite dude, and Pacquiao gets in there with those calves and just starts working him?
Is everyone here picking Crawford in that fight?
I'm not.
I still think
I'm-
Pacquiao gives him trouble.
I'm picking Crawford.
It's kind of crazy because Manny did lose against a pound-for-pound #1 fighter in his last fight. We got to take that into account.
Look at what Gamboa did to Gamboa caught Crawford with big shots, and he did it with hand speed, didn't he?
It's true.
That's one thing Pacquiao definitely brings to the party. And that in and out style, I think it's a 50-50 fight. If that fight can be made, I'm more than happy. And props to Pacquiao if he takes it.
It's a great fight.
Let's hope it does happen.
But
Yeah, definitely be a good fight.
it's a passing of the torch fight. You know, I see the similarities in Pacquiao, Oscar De La Hoya, and Pacquiao, Terence Crawford. I'm not saying style-wise. I'm saying Top Rank wants Crawford to win so that he's the man. Whether he does win or not, I don't know. It's a close fight, but I've got Crawford, and I think the momentum is with Crawford. Pacquiao's kind of got one foot out the door.
Yeah, no, he has got one foot out the door, but he might have one big fight in him. But I just think it's a good style matchup. That's the best thing.
Yeah, it'd be a pretty good fight. I don't know if you guys hear Max Kellerman when you lot watch the fights or what broadcasts you get. I usually hate him, but I feel like when he's talking about Crawford, he's got a decent read on him. Like he does seem like a mean guy in there. Like he's for real.
Yeah, but he overhypes the shit out of him, Segura.
I mean, he overhypes everybody, but you think Crawford's not? You think he's like not a top fighter? Or you think I'm just
no.
Juice?
I think he is a top fighter, but I need to see him prove it. And the thing is, like, calling him a mean fighter, like, what exactly does that mean? That's semantics, essentially, right? You're just saying, oh, he's a bad motherfucker. But let's see him do that against a tough guy. Even him versus Matisse is something I'd like to watch, because Matisse is better than every other fighter that he's fought at this point. But in terms of skill, like, I can't deny that Crawford is a top, pound for pound type of guy when it comes to skills. But what Roy Jones was saying about Crawford, he was saying that Dierry Jean would have been Golovkin's best opposition outside of Lemieux. Like, he was comparing the two. I thought that was ridiculous. That was fucking crazy. Like, I just think Crawford needs to have a better built resume, but I think you guys actually convinced me. I do feel like him versus Pacquiao is warranted just based on circumstances, like you mentioned, Segura.
Well, Roy Jones I don't know what happened to him, but somebody wronged him at some point. He's got an issue with Golovkin.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big trend.
Did you hear about him trying to compare Crawford's power to Triple G's, like relative to their weight class too?
No, I heard somebody saying that.
That's fucking outlandish, man. But I don't know. What's a fight that you'd want to see though if it wasn't Pacquiao?
Broner.
Crawford.
Love to see Broner.
Oh my god, I fucking love that shit.
Just so you can.
I might have to call into the boxing voice after that one.
Interesting. Okay.
I can't listen. I try to listen to I'm not going to shit on the boxing voice. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put my hat in my hand. I'm going to go down. I'm going to clean up dinner, boys. I got to roll.
All right. Thank you, Segura.
See you later, man.
Take care, bro.
How's Segura doing in the predictions league?
I'm not really checked, to be honest, but since
Shots fired.
Since that season
Just asking.
Since that season where he was doing good and then started talking a bit of smack, he's never been the same, and he's like a boxer.
He's like Broner.
Yeah, he's a boxer that's got knocked out and never been the same again. Sorry, Segura.
And also, just this may sound kind of awkward, but I want Mal Alpha to come back on the show. So Mal, if you're listening, I miss you, man. And if I said inappropriate things in the past, I apologize about them profusely. So just come back.
Come back, Mal. Come back.
Come back.
All right, let's get some final thoughts. Probably won't have any, but Leon, you came on late. You spread a bit of salt, and that's about it. Any final thoughts?
Yeah.
That was actually the highlight of the show for me, Leon, was when Cam was going down a list of fights and your reaction to each one of them was priceless.
Oh, I'll end on a positive. It's great to see the Eubanks back on Sky. I do love the Eubanks.
Oh, actually, regarding Eubank,
I'm Team Eubank.
one thing I've noticed recently, I don't know if you have noticed it too, Leon, is Eubank starting to kind of be interviewed more on his own without his father around. Like back in his Channel 5 days and his Box Nation days, like he would barely complete an interview without his dad taking over. And with Sky, that I've noticed, because Ringside's kind of gone all internet now, and most of the Ringside shows are based on online.
Yeah.
A lot of his interviews are on his own, and it's kind of good to hear him kind of speak his own opinion without his dad interrupting and giving his version of the events. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's really good. I'm glad to see. It's amazing the power of a name, isn't it? Just how just as soon as you saw him on Sky, it just felt right, didn't it? I know it was a terrible card and a horrible mismatch, but if he's got his dad's chin, we could be in for a roller coaster.
So you're saying that he beats Triple G, right?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying if he's got his dad's chin, he'll be in some serious fights.
Hey guys, can I ask you a serious question though?
Silly shots.
Who do you guys think is a bigger cock block, Eubank Sr. or Sean Porter's dad?
Let's come on. Let's not even talk about it. One of them's done nothing, achieved nothing, and the other one is one of the best dressed human beings you'll ever come across.
No, all jokes aside, though, Leon, my biggest issue with Senior is he's lived that life. He's had the accolades. He's been in the fights. He's had the limelight. Why not let your son have it? Why always trying to be in the camera? Why always trying to be in the interview?
So he's an egotistical fucking maniac, isn't he? He's a lunatic. You can't control that man. He's seriously off his rocker. It's like it doesn't matter what we say. It's not, it's just happening. You can't stop it. He's a force of nature. I fucking love him.
Oh, man.
I could just imagine Chris Eubank Sr. going up to a potential date to Chris Eubank Jr. and just saying, be very mindful. Be very mindful.
I mean, he's done some crazy shit in his life and it shouldn't be forgiven and stuff, but he's hella entertaining. And it's just great to have that kind of character back in the British-centric back in the sport.
Yeah, I thought it was a great fight. I mean, like you mentioned, I don't know who said it last week, but Eubank definitely does have those moments, those flashes of brilliance, and it's pretty scary to see if he could ever put that all together. But that's a huge if. There's not many guys who can do that, so I want to see Eubank versus DeGale, man. I think that'd be a really interesting fight, because I think Eubank is pretty big for that weight division, don't you think?
Yeah, he is definitely.
So I could definitely see that fight coming into fruition in a couple of years.
And they've got a bit of beef as well.
Have they?
I'd love to see that fight, actually.
Yeah, I think they sparred, and afterwards Eubank was saying that he beat him up in sparring and stuff like that, so DeGale didn't take kindly to that.
Yeah. That'd be a great fight.
It would be good. It'd be really good to see what happens with Booth. That's the other exciting thing, because if he gets it right, it could. I'm excited. I don't care what anyone says.
Booth is the truth.
I know it's not all hype and shit, but it's just great to have that name back.
All right, cheers, Leon. Lim, you got any final thoughts?
No, I thought that today was a pretty good show, despite the shit weekend of fights. I think a really interesting podcast in the future would be like a year-end review where we just go down every single fight that took place this year and just have Leon's reaction to each and every single one of them. And also another great one. Me and Chu, we're planning on doing, I think, a 12-hour long segment on amateur boxing versus professional boxing. So that should be up pretty soon if you guys want to download that. We'll have that up in a couple of days.
Well, that's coming up in a couple of hours, isn't it?
No, we actually recorded it this past weekend. So
Well, no joking. I'm getting tweets about this subject. Lucky Boxing wants me to ask you a question about that. Okay, I'll ask the question. Ask Lim about how in college football they run the read option, often sort of like high volume in amateur boxing. So what do you think about that, Lim?
what the fuck? Come on, man. I was trolling, but if Lukey really wants to have that question answered, excuse me. Well, you just got to listen to the show. That's the 12-hour podcast. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, it's coming up.
It's coming up.
Thanks, Lynn. All right, Chi, you got any final thoughts?
Nah, just fucking love this show tonight. Great fucking dramatic, big drama show. Easy, guys. Easy work. Fucking love that show tonight.
Yeah, and also, you guys give me a great excuse because the place I work, we have a couple of conference rooms, and whenever I get really heated or passionate, all the girls think I'm some kind of CEO because I get so upset and I get so emotional. You know, they think I'm making business moves or something, but I'm just talking about Triple G's pay-per-view numbers. You know,
They think you're firing people across the world.
Exactly.
Boxing Coalition CEO. Shout out to fucking Compa in the chat. See, I'm a fucking man of the people. You want me to give you a shout out? I'll give you a shout out.
Shout out to the compa. All right, I want to thank all
Shout
you
out to
guys.
Massive.
Shout out to every single person in the chat.
Yeah. All right, I want to thank you guys for being on the show today. I want to thank all the people in the chat. I want to thank all the people that download the show week in, week out.
Thank you.
Yep, we'll be back next week. Peace.
You just listened to the Boxing Coalition.
Oh, dude, man, I love boxing. I fucking love boxing.
A big shout out to the Boxing Coalition.
You're a newbie.
I ain't new, man.
If my fucking next door neighbour became the number one flyweight in the world, you know what I'd do? I'd fucking walk past the cunt.
Derek, how you doing, bro?
I was physically burn you, blood.
I disagree.
First time I hear the song, man, it was fucking badass.
Vamos Argentina, la concha de su madre.
I see the bomb in him.
I get home and she's like, what the fuck? Me and the kid are here. Why don't you get home and talk to us? I'm like, man, you guys don't know shit about boxing.
Kel, how does it feel to be the new IBF champion?
It feels great. Do we really dive into the black hole right off the jump?
I think he's hiding glass. Just to play devil's advocate.
You want one portion of crow or two portions of crow?
Give me 2 portions with a supersized fries and a large drink, please.
I can't stand him, what? I'm Scottish. Cringe side?
But you won't rush Anthony fucking fat ass Joshua, would you? He's not fat.
How about you tell us what you weigh for your final thoughts?
My weight?
Thank you for listening to the Boxing Coalition. We are live every Monday, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. UK time, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern.